Chapter 121. Third Saint felt that he had seen this azure school uniform somewhere before. After staring at Wang Ling's somewhat childish face for a moment, it was as if a string had been pulled out of his brain, and he suddenly remembered that this uniform had been on the news not long ago. This was the uniform of number 60 high school in Peiyuan district. It had originally been an unknown, ordinary high school. If it hadn't been for the fact that Shadow Stream's first-class Red Ribbon assassins had been completely wiped out here, Third Saint felt that he wouldn't care about this school at all. Previously, Third Saint remembered that he had read about it on the news broadcast. After carefully recalling the details, Third Saint was suddenly a little stunned to realize that this school seemed to have become quite famous recently. The annihilation of Shadow Stream's Red Ribbon assassins and the capture of a female Gold Ribbon assassin seemed to have something to do with this school, and now, the youngster standing in front of him was wearing this school's uniform. Third Saint suddenly felt afraid. After all, there was no direct evidence that Great Saint and Second Saint's deaths from the backlash had anything to do with this youngster, right? Perhaps there was some big shot in the cultivation world hidden in this villa that even the Heaven and Earth Spirit Perception Array couldn't detect. Was he afraid? That didn't exist. He had been through hundreds of battles all these years, and had seen all kinds of storms. Back then, in order to comprehend the Tao of the soul formation stage, he had copied old Demon Wang's methods and opened a woodcarving shop to carve airplane cups. Back then, this kid hadn't even been born yet. This was just a youngster in an ordinary high school uniform. It was nothing, there was nothing to be afraid of. Third Saint comforted himself continuously in his heart. Standing at the door, Wang Ling was a little speechless as he listened to this old Taoist in white's intense mental activity. Just as he was wondering why this old Taoist still hadn't made a move, he saw spirit light flash in the other party's hand as he threw out a wine gourd, which he gulped down several mouthfuls of. Wang Ling's heart trembled. Could this be the legendary, wine strengthens a coward's courage? What kind of fear was there in front of Wang Ling? Third Saint felt that it was hard to accurately describe it in words. There was no spiritual pressure, no other means, and he couldn't even sense the other party's spiritual senses probing him. Just face to face, the divinity transformation stage cultivator had already lost the aggressive killing intent that he had when he arrived. He felt an extreme sense of crisis and had to boost his courage with alcohol. Wang Ling glanced at the wine gourd in the old Taoist in white's hand. This gourd contained an 82-year-old emboldening wine, which was very popular in the cultivation world nowadays. It was originally used by the cultivators of the older generation to fight against the demon race that escaped from the gate between worlds, and it tasted very good. Although the gate between worlds hadn't appeared for a long time, the tradition of drinking alcohol to boost one's courage before a battle had been imperceptibly passed down. Originally, this was supposed to be drunk when fighting a strong enemy. But the white-clothed old Taoist would never have thought that such an ordinary-looking, dead fish-eyed, paralyzed youth would actually bring him such a sense of terror. A gourd of wine entered his stomach, and a drunken blush appeared on the old Taoist's face. I'm going. A sword stabbed at Wang Ling head-on, and before the blade arrived, silver sword chi whistled through the air. Such overbearing sword chi was powerful enough to kill anyone below the soul formation stage, and there was no need for the tip of the sword to touch the body. The sword chi alone was enough to kill him. The old Taoist in white had good eyesight. If this youngster really was just a foundation establishment high school student, his sword would definitely cut the other party into pieces in an instant. Although the 10 sages all cultivated the ghost Tao, each of them had their own magic tools. Some practiced with hammers, some practiced with axes, and some practiced with soap. As for the old Taoist in white, the 3 sages practiced with swords. Wang Ling instantly recognized that this was the 3 Lives sword art, which had been created by one of the 10 founding generals, Blade Master General Yi. This sword art was divided into 3 techniques: copper, silver, and gold. Copper focused on defense, gold focused on offense, and silver focused on both offense and defense. It was very obvious that Third Saint didn't cultivate a gold sword or a copper sword, but a silver sword. Wang Ling didn't move, and just stood where he was, blinking hard. The old Taoist in white was startled by this youngster's action. Was he making eyes at him? Could it be that this guy was King Gay? But very quickly, he abruptly realized that he was wrong. Because before the silver sword chi he had thrust out could get close to the youngster, it actually froze in midair. Whether it was the sword chi or the blade, they were both blocked by an extremely powerful force, and couldn't advance any further. At that moment, Third Saint suddenly recalled the youngster's blinking. It turned out that it wasn't a useless move. Instead, this youngster was using the strong wind created by his eyelashes to neutralize his sword art. Just by blinking his eyes, the strong wind created by his eyelashes had the power to resist the power of Third Saint's sword art, F***K. There was this kind of operation. Third Saint instantly felt as if his entire world had been struck by lightning. 2,000 years of cultivation had been completely F***king wasted in a dog's stomach. To make matters worse, Third Saint was stunned to realize that he actually couldn't use his sword art to resist the strong wind created by this youngster's eyelashes. That invisible wave was pushing the silver blade back at him, and by the time he reacted and was about to withdraw his sword art, it was already too late. Under the powerful invisible wave created by the eyelashes, this silver blade actually changed direction and came back at him with an unstoppable force. This counterattack was actually even fiercer than the sword chi he had thrust out. Third Saint had no time to react at all. His face turned pale with fright, and his entire person was terrified to the extreme. Who the hell was this youngster? Fortunately, Third Saint's reaction was godly. Using all his strength to control his sword, he broke his right hand first, and at the cost of his arm, he forcibly changed the direction of this unstoppable force. The vast wave rushed into the sky, directly scattering the clouds in the firmament. The originally cloudy sky was actually cleared by this impact, and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. Wang Ling was still standing there as he straightened his school uniform, which had been slightly creased by the wind created by the sword chi. The old Taoist in white thought that Wang Ling was going to attack again, and was so frightened that he retreated several dozen meters. A few seconds later, the old Taoist in white spat out a mouthful of blood, which soaked his clothes. Although he had changed the direction of the attack, the residual power had still caused him internal injuries from the backlash. Fortunately, he had reacted in time, and the lethality of the backlash this time was only at level 2, which wasn't too serious. At that moment, the old Taoist in white still had lingering fear in his heart. Just the wave created by the lifting of his eyelashes had actually caused such an earth-shattering result. If he hadn't reacted so quickly, he would have already met his eldest senior brother and second senior brother, killing the enemy in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the old Taoist in white was pale with fright. This youngster's realm was far above that of the 10 saints. Even if another 100 soul formation cultivators came, they still might not be his match. Recalling the violent wave created by the blink of an eye just now, the old Taoist in white felt that this move seemed a little familiar. Legend had it that the number 1 killer on the international ranking list, Teacher Killer, who was called Killer Taoist, had this unparalleled divine ability to kill the enemy in the blink of an eye. Could it be, this was that senior Killer Taoist? But why was this senior wearing a school uniform? Could it be that he also had a cosplay hobby? F***K. This great senior was his idol. Clutching his broken arm, the Taoist in white, who was drenched in blood, looked at Wang Ling and asked a little shyly, "Senior Killer Taoist, is that you? Can I have your autograph?" Chapter 122. Facing the old Taoist in white, Wang Ling took 5 seconds to compose his thoughts, and with great difficulty, he came to a conclusion. This third saint had mistaken him for someone else. Teacher Sha, whose Taoist name was Killer Taoist, was ranked number 1 on the international killer ranking list. This wasn't the first time Wang Ling had heard of this. The last time was when that 36D Shadow Stream girl had attempted to invade number 59 high school. Looking at the old Taoist in white, who seemed to have forgotten all his hatred, Wang Ling was instantly at a loss for words. Who knew that when he blinked, he would be mistaken for Killer Taoist's unique technique, and, what the hell was this old Taoist's bashful expression, like that of an inexperienced little girl, after confirming that he was Killer Taoist? WTF? Could it be that this guy was actually gay? He didn't want this twist at all. Seeing that Wang Ling didn't say anything, Third Saint was reassured and took it as Wang Ling's tacit approval. He was as excited as a primary school student about to go on a spring excursion. His smile was like a brilliant chrysanthemum. Senior Killer Taoist. So it really is you. Wang Ling, I've long heard of Senior's divine skill of killing enemies in the blink of an eye. Seeing for myself is indeed better than hearing about it. The white-robed old Taoist sighed, feeling somewhat ashamed of his inferiority. Wang Ling looked at the old Taoist's severed arm, which was still bleeding. Due to the aftershock of the previous attack and the old Taoist in white's excitement just now, the wound was gushing blood like a fountain. With this amount of blood loss, it was only at the level of a soul formation cultivator. If it was any other person, they would have died a long time ago. Senior, are you worried about my injuries? Don't worry, this little wound is nothing. This is all the result of my inferior skills. Wang Ling stared at the old Taoist in white and really wanted to say, "You're thinking too much." The old Taoist took out the medicinal powder that he carried with him and sprinkled it on the wound. The bleeding stopped very quickly. But the pain of his severed arm and the excitement he felt after confirming that Wang Ling was Killer Taoist made the old Taoist's face turn red and white like a flower, which was as strange as it could get. Although we are acting on orders this time, if we knew that Senior Killer Taoist was here, we wouldn't have been able to escape. We will absolutely not make a move. Brutality has always been the belief of us, the 10 Saints. Only those who are more brutal than us are worth learning from. Back when Senior Killer Taoist was all-powerful in the cultivation world, we were just little saplings crying piteously for food. The old Taoist's eyes glistened as he spoke, and he couldn't help but cry. Wang Ling, these tears were real, and so was his lament. Wang Ling knew that these were the old Taoist's heartfelt words. If there was the slightest hint of falsehood, Wang Ling's mind-reading ability would immediately detect it. Faced with an enemy who had completely lost his killing intent and the ability to fight at the same time, and who could only sigh with emotion, Wang Ling knew that it was unlikely that he would be able to make a move. What he found most strange was that up until now, he had never clearly expressed his stance on the plot. It was all the wishful thinking of the old Taoist in white. Moreover, it was obvious that the white-robed old Taoist had completely sunk into his own infinite imagination, completely unable to extricate himself. Eldest senior brother and second senior brother died in vain. If they knew that Senior Killer Taoist was here, I don't think they would have made a move. Listening to the old Taoist in white's account, Wang Ling frowned. To be honest, the current situation was giving him a headache. Maybe if he had simply gotten rid of this bunch of people from the very beginning, and then thrown the blame to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, then there wouldn't have been so many problems. But Wang Ling really rarely killed people. He would only do so when there was a real threat to him. This was what Father and Mother Wang had taught him since he was young. He was born with great power to protect himself, not to wantonly trample on life. Otherwise, what was the difference between him and those protagonists in novels who killed people indiscriminately just to feel good? After killing this third saint, there would be fourth saint and then fifth saint who would come to make trouble for him one after another. Wang Ling's frown was actually because he felt that there had to be a more satisfactory solution to this matter than simply and crudely killing people. At that moment, Third Saint's voice rang out again. "Senior, are you still worried about the stone ghost mask?" Wang Ling raised his head and looked seriously at the old Taoist in white, wanting to hear the other party's attitude. The old Taoist in white smiled. "Don't worry, Senior, we won't fight for the stone ghost mask again. When I go back this time, I will explain the situation to them. Even if I have to defy the Lord of the Castle's orders, I won't participate in the operation to seize the stone ghost mask again." These words were very sincere, and Wang Ling didn't catch any loopholes in them, so he nodded in satisfaction. Seeing Wang Ling nod, Third Saint knew that the other party wasn't angry, and heaved a huge sigh of relief. "After this matter is over, I will choose to retire and never participate in any disputes again. Consider it a little self-punishment for offending Senior." After saying this, he clutched his broken arm and bowed to Wang Ling. "This time, we have really offended you. Please forgive us, Senior." Wang Ling. He had killed 2 of the enemy's generals through a backlash, and in the end, they had turned around and apologized to him. At this point, Wang Ling already didn't know what to say. Now, Wang Ling's mood was very complicated. Third Saint, since that's the case, I won't disturb Senior any longer, but before I leave, can Senior agree to a small request of mine? Wang Ling was puzzled, ? There was a flash of spirit light in the old Taoist's left hand, and a marker pen instantly appeared. He handed it to Wang Ling, then slowly turned around and pointed at his back. Senior, please give me your autograph here. After thinking for a bit, Wang Ling finally took off the cap of the pen and wrote 4 words, devoted to serving the country, signed, Killer Taoist, 2. When the curtains fell on this chaotic situation, Wang Ling withdrew his clone, and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already returned from the parent-teacher conference on behalf of Father and Mother Wang. The security captain at the door had already woken up, and the white foam at the corners of his mouth had already dried up. When he saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal return, he immediately grabbed his sleeve and said in a daze, Senior Immortal. Senior Immortal, be careful. Some lay foam said he's coming to tear down your house. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. When he got home, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help being shaken when he saw the fighting lion covered in special effects. What had happened in the last 2 hours? After checking the storage of cinnabar in the villa, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal instantly wanted to cry but had no tears to shed, because Wang Ling had actually used up all of it. There wasn't even a speck left. He had mixed the cinnabar with black dust powder, and based on the current market value of black dust powder, Wang Ling's talisman drawing had instantly cost him at least 1 million yuan. This was definitely Wang Ling's bad taste. Chapter 123. Everything was over. The 10 Saints incident had come to an end. For Immortal Castle, the 10 Saints should be the strongest lineup they could bring out at the moment. Not only had they lost 2 of their top generals, they were also in danger of Third Saint, who had decided to retire from the martial arts world, turning against them at any time. In a short period of time, it was obviously impossible to organize another large-scale operation to seize the stone ghost mask. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could take advantage of this time to happily continue looking for the whereabouts of the mask maker. When Wang Ling withdrew his clone, his real body was already on the way home. Feeling the mental strength he had spread out return, Wang Ling's gloomy mood instantly improved a lot. Wang Ling felt that this was one of the major drawbacks of the Great Separation spell. For him, the clones he sent out weren't just pure energy. This energy contained too many things, including realm, strength, and mood, so he usually avoided using the Great Separation spell. That was because this spell would only make his already paralyzed face even more paralyzed. When Wang Ling returned home, he noticed that there was one more person in the house today. Even without using his spiritual senses, he knew that it was Lai Mengmeng. The pair of white rabbit slippers had disappeared. These were special slippers that Father Wang had prepared for Lai Mengmeng. Today, Lai Mengmeng was here for a follow-up consultation with Grandfather Wang. After meeting Teacher Pan during the home visit, the old man was clearly in better spirits than usual. The knot in his heart had been untied, and everything was at ease. But Father Wang was still a little worried, so he called Lai Mengmeng over to help take a look. Thus, a certain someone had unceremoniously run over to freeload off a meal in the name of a follow-up consultation. On the sofa, the old man held Lai Mengmeng's hand, his face full of gratitude. Little Song, we'll have to trouble you again this time. These simple words were enough to set Lai Mengmeng and Father Wang's hearts at ease. Because the old master didn't call the wrong name this time. Based on this point alone, Lai Mengmeng believed that even if his Alzheimer's disease hadn't been cured, it would at least be alleviated quite a bit. Grandpa Wang, you're too polite. Next, I'll ask you some questions. As he spoke, Lai Mengmeng took out a stack of paper from his backpack. These were some of the questions Lai Mengmeng had collected about Alzheimer's. There were yes or no questions, multiple choice questions, and brain teasers. The old man nodded cooperatively. Okay, Little Song. Ask away. Lai Mengmeng, first question, when eating scrambled eggs with tomatoes, do you often worry about whether to eat the tomatoes or the eggs first? The old man shook his head. Lai Mengmeng noted it down and then asked, chocolate-flavored tea or shit-flavored chocolate, which would you choose? The old man pondered for a moment, then suddenly asked, all chocolates contain sugar, right? Lai Meng nodded. Yes. The old man, then my blood sugar is high, I can't eat either. Lai Meng, also, how can you ask this kind of question to the elderly? Nowadays, many elderly people have diabetes. This kind of question is too unfriendly. Then let me change the question. Lai Meng, Grandpa Wang, may I ask under what circumstances 1 + 1 = 2? The old man stared at Lai Meng as if he was looking at a retard. Of course it's 2 if the calculation is correct. I say, little song, can you not use the questions from the Spring Festival Gala 30 years ago to test me? Although I'm old, I'm not stupid, okay? Your questions are too old. Lai Meng, the old man stared at Lai Meng and criticized him. I find that young people nowadays don't take a long-term view of problems. Little song, it's wrong for you to be entangled in the past and not think about making progress. Can't you develop a question that's at a higher level? If young people don't keep up with the times, how can they find a girlfriend and make her like them? By the way, little song, it seems you don't have a girlfriend yet, right? No girlfriend. Lai Meng suddenly felt the urge to cover his face and run away in tears. After this question and answer session, Father Wang, who was next to him, could now confirm 2 things. First, the old man's dementia had already been completely cured. That glib-tongued Casanova from back then was back again. Second, after his face-to-face conversation with Grandfather Wang just now, Lai Meng's pure, young man's heart, which had yet to taste the honey of first love, had suffered an unprecedented and painful blow from the old man. After dinner, Wang Ling just happened to catch the broadcast of Cultivation of the People's Justice. Wang Ling hadn't used the small TV in his bedroom for a long time. If it wasn't for the little raccoon lucky draw this time, Wang Ling felt that he would never be able to unlock the dark seal on the TV. That was because it would be more convenient for him to use his wristwatch to directly participate in the program and scan the code for the lucky draw. Nowadays, anything could be obtained through a wristwatch. Old people's products like the TV, which had already been phased out, could only be used for Grandfather Wang to watch Love in the Country. Early in the morning on Tuesday, May 25th, Wang Ling was in a gloomy mood this morning, because as a die-hard little raccoon fan, he hadn't even won an encouragement prize in the lucky draw last night. How infuriating. Wang Ling felt that something like the lucky draw was just like the probability of strengthening equipment in Penguin Corporation's games. Even if there was a 90% success rate, there would still be repeated failures. When Wang Ling arrived in class, grade 1, class 3 was gossiping as usual in the morning. The topic of the second mock exam, which had lasted for several days, had temporarily died down, and yesterday's parent-teacher conference became the new topic of discussion. Dopey Gua, the master of gossip in class, shared the following information. I heard that there was a vote at yesterday's parent-teacher conference. Someone asked, what vote? Dopey Gua replied, our school is holding a school activity for each class to sing well. Yesterday, Teacher Pan had the parents recommend songs for us to vote on. Then we have to choose one of the top 3 songs as our class's song for the competition. Saying this, Master of Dopey threw out a piece of paper, which was Father Gua's notes from yesterday's parent-teacher conference. A large part of the notes was about the school selection for each class to sing well this time. Everyone gathered around to look at the notes, which clearly listed the songs that had been nominated. The first song was The Brightest Star in the Night Sky, which had been recommended by Li Xuanjing's dad, Li Gohai. Second was Running, which had been recommended by Super Chen's dad. Third was Little Apple, which had been chosen by Little Peanut's dad, Big Nut. Everyone nodded when they saw this, feeling that these song titles really reflected the parents' personalities. Of course, apart from these 3 songs, there were also several other recommended songs that hadn't been nominated. For example, Songs of the East Wind, which had been recommended by Feather Lin's mom. With one look, it was clear that Mother Lin was definitely a senior sect leader among the Fujoshi. Another example was Master of Dopey's father, Father Gua, who had chosen Itch, which indirectly reflected the father and son's flirtatious nature. Sure enough, like father, like son. Following the notes on the list to the end, everyone realized that there was actually another recommended song on the list that hadn't received any votes. No one actually voted for this song. Even the song, Itch, got a vote. Someone asked, who recommended it? Wang Lei. Wang Ling knew right away that this was definitely an alias that grenade-throwing senior Immortal had come up with on the fly. Super Chen had a flash of inspiration. Wang Lei? Is that classmate Wang Ling's father? After all, there was only one student with the surname Wang in the class. What song did he recommend? Pomp and Circumstance. As soon as he said that, the whole class instantly fell into dead silence. Everyone turned to look at Wang Ling and couldn't help sighing in their hearts. Who would have thought that under classmate Wang Ling's cold, expressionless exterior, he actually hid such a sultry heart? Chapter 124. It was May 26th on Wednesday in the 5th week of the semester. After Lai Mengmeng's follow-up visit last night, Father Wang could confirm that the old man's dementia was completely gone. The old man was still concerned about his vegetable field in the suburbs of the neighboring city, so he had left it in the care of Zhang San, who lived next door, as long as the vegetables in the field didn't die. Zhang San could harvest the ripe vegetables and sell them, and the money he earned from them would be Zhang San's own. But 2 hours before the old man was about to leave on his tricycle, something big happened in the Wang family. Mother Wang had been groped on the subway on her way home from grocery shopping. It wasn't just as simple as being groped, but the pervert had also pushed her so hard that her forehead had hit a pillar and her scalp had been cut. The most infuriating thing was that when the pervert had gotten off the subway in a hurry, he had kicked Mother Wang and pointed at the crowd around them as he yelled at Mother Wang, "There are so many people watching, you slutty hussy deliberately wore so little, and you still want to frame me? In your dreams." There was a saying that the guilty party was the first to complain. This pervert had a tattoo on his arm, and he looked like a gangster. Plus, he had a rough and unruly appearance. For a moment, no one around them dared to stand up for Mother Wang. Mother Wang had never been a woman who took the initiative to stir up trouble. This was the first time that someone had pointed at her and scolded her for wearing revealing clothes in front of so many people. Mother Wang felt so aggrieved that she almost burst into tears. When she got home, Father Wang was so angry that his black-rimmed glasses fell off when he saw Mother Wang's bloodied head. The old man directly called the police. If there was a problem, the police were always right. This was the only cultivation police station within a radius of 50 li around East Huang Road, so it was usually very idle. Because there weren't many residents in the suburbs, there weren't even any cases of theft, which led to the police officers developing the very bad habit of laziness. From the time Mother Wang got home to the time the old man reported the case to the time the police arrived to take a statement, 2 hours had actually passed. It wasn't until Father Wang was a little impatient that the doorbell rang. He saw a police officer in uniform standing at the door with a small notebook in his hand. The police officer looked at Father Wang. "Was it your family who called the police?" Father Wang: "Yes, but it was my dad." The police officer glanced at the old man beside him. "And this is?" The old man nodded. "Yes, I was the one who called the police. I'm your grandpa." The policeman, the three of them sat down, and Mother Wang poured a glass of water for the policeman. The policeman took a look at the wound on Mother Wang's head. "Is this the victim?" The old man was very emotional. "Yes. This is my daughter. She was groped and beaten on the subway. Wait until you find out who it is. I'll definitely use the 18 sticky clothes fall technique to kill him." "Father Wang," the policeman, "Uncle Wang, don't be so agitated." The policeman took out his police badge. "Look, my surname is also Wang. We're from the same family. Please believe that I can handle this problem for you." Father Wang and the old man looked at the police ID number on it, SB 12138. Officer Wang was a little embarrassed as he explained, "East Huang Road is in the north of Shanghai City. For short, it's called SB." The old man and Father Wang nodded cooperatively. "Very well, Officer Wang. If you have any questions, ask away." Officer Wang straightened his collar. I have a lot of experience in handling cases. Our area receives 60 calls a year, and I'm responsible for handling half of them. Don't worry. After saying that, Officer Wang looked at Mother Wang. I suggest you do a disability assessment first, or take a picture of the wound as evidence. This will be evidence in the future. But for now, let's take a statement. Madam Victim, do you remember the specific time? Mother Wang answered truthfully, it was between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, when I was on my way back from grocery shopping. It happened on the subway. Officer Wang nodded and made a few notes in his little notebook. He then raised his head. This is the rush hour after work. It's normal for buttocks to squeeze buttocks, right? Maybe the other party didn't do it on purpose? The old man took out a black iron kitchen knife he used from under the sofa. Officer Wang, fine, none of the above assumptions are valid. Then, could it be that this lady's clothes were a little too cold? The old man took out a whetstone from under the coffee table. Officer Wang, it's almost summer in Shanghai City, and it's stuffy and hot during the plum season. It's actually very normal to wear short sleeves. Officer Wang broke out in a cold sweat. Then Madam Victim, apart from the bruise on your scalp, did you suffer any other injuries? Mother Wang, before the subway doors opened, that man kicked me in the arm. The old man continued, also, this dog leftover's mouth isn't clean, and it has an extremely bad influence on my daughter's mental health. Officer Wang nodded and stared at the little notebook in his hand. Let's sort out the whole story. Victim Madam Wang was on her way back from grocery shopping on the subway between 4 and 5 in the afternoon when she was molested by some burly tattooed man. He shoved her once, which indirectly caused her to bruise her scalp. When he got off the subway, he kicked Madam Wang's left arm and verbally attacked and insulted her. During this period, the subway was completely sealed off. The entire crime took less than 5 minutes, and the other party got off the subway. The situation is already very clear. Grandfather Wang, Officer Wang, what do you think? The experienced Officer Wang cupped his chin and nodded solemnly. Based on my many years of experience in handling cases, this should be a nasty case of subway groping in a secret room. Father Wang, Mother Wang and the old man, Officer Wang, if you insist on finding this man's chest, you have to go through the legal process. Father Wang, how exactly do we do this? Officer Wang, according to the normal procedure, Madam Wang was assaulted at East Wang North Road Station. So first of all, our local police station has to file a case and investigate it. Then, in conjunction with the Ministry of Urban Construction, we'll get subway surveillance footage and investigate the suspects one by one in the subway stations, which have millions of trips every day. Then, we have to go through the legal process: prosecution, first trial, second trial, Supreme Court. But based on my many years of experience in handling cases, this is actually quite difficult to handle. It won't be easy to lock onto the suspect. The subway traffic is really too high. Unless someone directly recorded it at the time of the crime. And even if we find the suspect, the whole process will take at least 3 years. Grandfather Wang was very stubborn. No matter how long the process takes, we have to file a lawsuit. However, the experienced Officer Wang spread his hands. I'm very sorry, sirs. At this point, if you insist on filing a lawsuit, then I can't do anything about it. I don't have the authority to file a case and investigate it. Father Wang, didn't you say you have a lot of experience? The experienced Officer Wang nodded solemnly. That's right, I do have a lot of experience as a temp. Father Wang. Chapter 125. There was a saying that it was better to rely on oneself than on others, and Father Wang felt that this saying was very appropriate in this situation. Of course, it was important to clarify that not all police officers were unreliable. It was just that the one Father Wang had run into this time was a little strange. In the end, this experienced Officer Wang was dragged away by Loopy Toad by his boot. At that moment, Wang Ling had just come home from school. He had just opened the door when he saw Loopy Toad unceremoniously dragging Officer Wang's boot out of the house. The experienced officer Wang was flustered and exasperated as he shouted, "We, temporary workers, also have human rights." As soon as he said this, Loopy Toad used a divine dog tail swing at the man's foot, and then a dog punch directly hit his round belly. Then, Wang Ling saw this person's body, which weighed more than 200 kilograms, forcibly fly more than 20 meters away. In the end, his butt ended up in the air as he came to a stop in a very queer position. When Wang Ling entered the house, he found that the atmosphere in the Wang family's small villa was unusually low today. When he saw the injury on Mother Wang's forehead, Wang Ling's face swiftly darkened. The old man slapped his thigh. "As soon as that brat came in, I knew he wasn't reliable. I didn't expect him to be so unreliable. Using a temporary worker to brush us off, is he playing with us like monkeys?" Mother Wang comforted him on the side. "Dad, let's forget about it. In any case, my injury isn't serious. At most, it's just a little grievance." In just a few seconds, Wang Ling had already used his mind-reading ability to understand the whole story. Very good. Taking advantage of the Immortal King's mother, and still King dared to hit people. King got yourself into big trouble. Wang Ling took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then, he used Memory Sketch to quickly draw a 3D portrait of that person from Mother Wang's memory. It was a slightly decorated young man with a mohawk hairstyle and a tattoo on his right arm. Staring at the paper, Mother Wang immediately identified it. "Yes, Ling Ling's drawing is correct, it's this person." The old man nodded at the portrait, then turned to Wang Ling, "Can you find this person?" "Father Wang, given the range of Ling Ling's spiritual senses, it won't be difficult to find this person in Songhai City. But I remember Ling Ling saying that spiritual sense is like a generator. The greater the coverage, the greater the power. The impact will probably cripple the entire power grid in Songhai City, right?" Wang Ling lowered his head in tacit agreement. Because Father Wang was telling the truth. "Forget it, leave the matter of finding him to me." After saying that, Father Wang took out a lighter, lit a cigarette with a snap, and put it in his mouth. He exhaled a long puff of smoke, and the light from his glasses obscured his somewhat gloomy eyes. "As for how to deal with this mohawk head, Ling Ling, do as you see fit. However, you still have to abide by our Wang family's teachings, and under no circumstances should you kill him. It would be best if this guy was sent to the hospital. Lying down for the rest of his life. Motherf *****. You dare to touch my woman, you must be tired of living." The old man and Wang Ling both trembled. Father Wang had already turned completely evil. Actually, there were a lot of unfair things in society. Going back a few eras, in fact, ordinary people had even less right to speak, and when there were conflicts between cultivators, basically all the problems would be solved with a fight. Realm was king, and strength was respected. Strength represented everything. Now, in the spirit energy information era, both ordinary people and cultivators had legal checks and balances. But it had to be said that when it came to incidents like groping, the deterrent force of the law was clearly insufficient. Perhaps the vast majority of girls who encountered this kind of situation would choose to endure the disgust and get over it. Because the less trouble, the better. Of course, there were also girls like Mother Wang who bravely stood up and pointed out the pervert. But sometimes, this wasn't necessarily effective. A large part of the reason was the apathy of onlookers. They would rather stand on the side and take pictures and videos to join in on the fun than step forward and say a few words. The most hateful thing was that the keyboard warriors on the internet would also throw the blame to the female victims without distinguishing between right and wrong, scolding them for wearing too little. In the end, even if they called the police, the matter would often be left unsettled. As the experienced officer Wang had said, there was a lot of traffic in public places like subways and buses. If the pervert wasn't caught red-handed, it would be nonsense for the cultivation police to spend days and nights staring at the surveillance cameras to find the pervert. Even if the pervert was caught in the end, he would only be detained for 15 days. Furthermore, if the pervert was someone who had connections, he might be let out after going in for a cup of tea. Thus, most ordinary people would feel very depressed and helpless when dealing with this kind of incident. Unfortunately, the Mohawk head who had been groping this time had run into Wang Ling's family. This time, Father Wang insisted on taking over the job of finding the person and wouldn't let Wang Ling get involved. There were two main reasons for this. On one hand, Father Wang was considering the city he currently lived in. Father Wang felt that it really wasn't worth it for Wang Ling to risk the economic loss of the entire city's power grid to find a scumbag. On the other hand, Father Wang felt that as a man, it would be too cowardly of him to rely on his son to get back at his wife after she was bullied. It was just looking for a person, it wasn't that difficult. If one said that realm and strength were Wang Ling's weapon, but as an ordinary person without the slightest bit of spirit energy, Father Wang also had his own special methods. Before he could eat dinner, Father Wang had already started to get busy in his study as he logged onto his Weibo. Father Wang rarely went on Weibo, and his last message had been posted half a year ago. The reason why he didn't like Weibo was that there were 4 types of people who appeared on Father Wang's Weibo all year round. The first type, trolls. The second type, trolls who liked to follow the trend. The third type, trolls who urged updates. And the fourth type, trolls who liked to follow the trend. Of course, in terms of overall numbers, the third and fourth types were still the majority. Father Wang subconsciously looked at the verified tag on Weibo. The verified information was, Cultivation Reading best-selling guru author Wang Situ. This was to coincide with the promotion of his novel, and the people from the Cultivation Reading camp had helped Father Wang verify it. Because he hadn't been on Weibo for a long time, when Father Wang logged on, the entire webpage froze for 2 minutes because of the number of private messages. He glanced at the number of fans. Good lord. He hadn't been online for half a year, but his number of fans had actually increased by 1 million. Just half a year ago, Father Wang remembered that his Weibo fans had already broken 3 million, thanks to the website's operation. Now, it had actually increased by another 1 million. Father Wang didn't know how effective these 4 million fans would be. But given the current situation, he had to rely on the power of his Weibo fans to guide public opinion and find that hateful Mohawk head. Thus, the power of public opinion was the most powerful magic weapon that Father Wang could use as an internet celebrity among ordinary people. So, let's test the activity level first. Father Wang lit a cigarette, then quickly typed a string of words and posted his first Weibo post in half a year. Good evening, everyone. As soon as he sent the message, Father Wang instantly realized that the web page was unexpectedly frozen again. When the web page recovered, the number of likes on this Weibo post had actually already exceeded 1,000 in less than a minute. Then, a string of comments poured in. My God! Guru Wang Situ actually posted on Weibo. What Weibo post? Hurry up and write. You've only updated 1 chapter today. Please dress in women's clothes. I'll forgive you if you appear on camera as a woman. It really wasn't in vain for us trolls to wait on Weibo every day to catch authors. We finally caught one alive today. Chapter 126. Wang Ling had always felt that Father Wang's fans of his novels were very scary, and that there was a special kind of cohesiveness in them. It was like he had been born with this realm and had always been with Father Wang. Not only did Father Wang's Weibo account, which he hadn't taken care of for half a year, not only did his Weibo fans not decrease, there were actually so many people on the front line who liked and commented on Father Wang's account. It was to the extent that Father Wang's broken computer almost crashed. But this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Father Wang felt that it was time for him to display the power of his fans. After sorting out his thoughts and wording, Father Wang's fingers flew, and in a short 10 minutes, he swiftly published a long Weibo post titled, Wang Situ in a Fury for a Beauty. At the bottom of the post, Father Wang attached a portrait drawn by Wang Ling using the profiling technique, which he had just taken with his wristwatch. The moment he clicked send, Father Wang felt like Li Yunlong, who had led millions of fans into Pingan district to rescue his wife. He was inexplicably hot-blooded and excited. Because of the long content, the number of comments and likes this time wasn't as fast as the previous greeting post on Weibo. However, 5 minutes later, Father Wang's computer started to freeze again. It could only be said that Father Wang was in the end Father Wang. As the #1 godly author on the Cultivation Reading Forum's bestseller list, this long Weibo post could be said to be as smooth as flowing water. Not only was it meticulous in thought and clear in its arguments, it also revealed a husband's helplessness as well as a heartless accusation against an indifferent society. The gist of this long Weibo post could be summed up in one sentence: brothers, my wife has been groped. What should we do? Countless comments came in like a swarm. Damn it. This Mohawk head looks wretched, I didn't expect him to be so wretched as well. Is there any godly person who knows about human flesh? Human flesh, we must human flesh. I'm sorry, Guru Wang Situ. I shouldn't have scolded you because you haven't been updating well recently. I never thought you'd run into such a big problem. Repost and spread it for Guru Wang Situ. To be honest, Father Wang felt hot-blooded and even more touched when he saw these wishful thinking pleading for human flesh. Because this was the first time Father Wang had experienced the cohesiveness of his fans, apart from the fact that they subscribed to his novels. Wang Ling saw the number of likes, retweets, and comments on Father Wang's long post on Weibo climb at a speed visible to the naked eye in just a short quarter of an hour. Nowadays, using Weibo was not the right of ordinary people. Many almighty cultivators also had the habit of browsing Weibo. And among Father Wang's fans, it wasn't just students who read novels to relieve stress after school. Very quickly, someone with a verified username, Exploding Sky sect leader Su K, who had more than 10 million fans, left a message for Father Wang and forwarded it to him. When I'm not cultivating, I always look for good novels on the Cultivation Reading Network to relax and calm my Tao heart. When I once encountered the most difficult bottleneck, I suddenly discovered that Guru Wang Situ's Let Go of That Wet Nurse had accompanied me through the final bottleneck. This was a very dedicated author. Now that Wang Situ's family is being bullied, I, as the leader of Exploding Sky sect, am now officially announcing a Heavenly Tao bounty on Weibo. If any fellow cultivator can provide information on this vulgar man posted by Guru Wang Situ, I will offer a reward of 1 million HNY. Directly transfer it online. In an instant, Weibo exploded once again. A Heavenly Tao bounty. How long had it been since anyone had heard of this term? Back when the ancient cultivation world had still been in a state of chaos where hundreds of schools of thought contended, the Heavenly Tao bounty had already existed. This was a special bounty that only a sect leader or pope had the authority to issue, and it would create a chain reaction in a short period of time. Once someone was wanted by this bounty, they would become the public enemy of all cultivators, and everyone would have the right to kill them. Looking at past records, in the ancient cultivation world, no one who was wanted by the Heavenly Tao bounty had ever survived. But now, because of the restrictions of the law, although the Heavenly Tao bounty wasn't recognized by the law, it was still an unwritten tradition left behind in the cultivation world. Now, although the people wanted by the Heavenly Tao bounty weren't dead, they were so valiant that they could even find information on 18 generations of your family's ancestors. There had always been a joke on the internet that if someone was wanted by the Heavenly Tao bounty now, they might even be able to clearly count the number of ashes in their urns. If one were to say that the Heavenly Law bounty order in the past was a kill order, then now, it was an ultimate and enhanced version of a human flesh search order. Thus, Wang Ling couldn't help sweating a little when he saw the message sent by the leader of Exploding Sky sect. Because he felt that in some sense, this enhanced version of a human flesh search was even more terrifying than killing a person. Very quickly, countless comments appeared under Exploding Sky sect's leader Su Quebec, the big shot is here. I didn't expect the leader to also read Guru Wang Situ's novel. We're kindred spirits. I support the leader of Exploding Sky sect's righteous outspokenness. Capture the vulgar man alive. Justice for Guru Wang Situ's family. In just 1 hour, Wang Ling saw that Father Wang had completely taken over the trending topics on Weibo's trending search list due to the surging number of reposts. Top search: Wang Situ's fury for a beauty. Top search: Exploding Sky sect's leader issues a Heavenly Tao bounty. Top search: women guard against perverted hands. Just learned this trick. During this time, Wang Ling also used his wristwatch to refresh Weibo. In the Weibo comments section of the leader of Exploding Sky sect's Heavenly Tao bounty, he saw a lot of acquaintances from the cultivation forums and chat groups: Bulang Blade Immortal, I support fellow Taoist Su's righteous words on behalf of Guru Wang Situ. Guru Wang Situ's book is really good. I hope this matter can be resolved quickly so that Guru Wang Situ can update as soon as possible. Sailianjanran, damn it. What is the cultivation police doing? Do they really think there's no one left in the cultivation world? He even dares to touch Guru Wang Situ's wife. If this old lady finds out this vulgar man's address, I'll personally come to his door with a sword and cut off that guy's apricot mushrooms. Lightning Dharmaraja, fellow Taoists, please calm down first. If you can catch this person, sending him to me for electrocution should be the most effective method. I support Guru Wang Situ's legal rights. I'll also take this opportunity to advertise my internet addiction center. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal, I support fellow Taoist Su K. I especially like Guru Wang Situ's let go of that wet nurse. The 18 dragon subduing palms used by Zhuge Liang for a slam dunk is really too cool. Chapter 127. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal didn't know that this all-powerful Guru Wang Situ and Father Wang were in fact the same person. If he knew that the target of his comments was the great senior, in the Wang family's small villa, he would definitely regret it. But there were so many comments under Father Wang's long Weibo post that it was too much for the eyes to take in. The comments from the people in the cultivation forum didn't catch up with the first wave of popularity and were quickly drowned out by the rest of the comments. A large part of the reason why Father Wang's Weibo post had officially become a trending topic was because of Su K, the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. Most importantly, that message also included the Heavenly Law bounty. After the announcement of the Heavenly Way bounty, it immediately attracted the attention and support of a large number of big shots in the world of cultivators, most of whom were actually friends of Su K, the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. A person with the ID, Evil Monarch Jun Xie, and a verified profile as CEO of Cultivation Hardware and Concealed Weapons Technology reposted Su K's and Father Wang's Weibo posts, and said that he would add an additional 1 million yuan to the Heavenly Way bounty on the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. Evil Monarch Jun Xie, this was the Cultivation Metal Concealed Weapons Technology's boss. It was also the only large corporation that could compete with King Billy's Yadali Treasure Research Bureau in the concealed weapons market. Indeed, due to the participation of the Evil Monarch Jun Xie, the topic had once again exploded. In the short 2 hours after Father Wang posted on Weibo, the topic, Wang Situ in a fury for a beauty, soared like a rocket, and had already been read more than 100 million times. It was just like how Wang Ling's realm had automatically improved over the past 2 years. In his long Weibo post, Father Wang had clearly said that he had called the police, but unfortunately for various reasons, the cultivation police had been unable to handle the case. This also caused dissatisfaction among the people. If an official doesn't make decisions for the people, he might as well go home and sell sweet potatoes. The matter of taking advantage of someone was neither a big deal nor a small one. The point was that after Father Wang used Wang Situ's identity to expose this matter online, its social significance was clearly different. For a moment, many people on Weibo started to reprimand the cultivation police for their inaction after receiving the call. Soon, this matter alerted the Municipal Public Security Bureau. In the middle of the night, Song Qingshu was writing a post-war losses review report, with a bitter and hateful expression. This time, not only had 2 of the 10 saints died, even the 3rd saint had betrayed the castle master for some unknown reason. Until now, Song Qingshu was still in the dark. However, the report still had to be written. What had been lost, what was the next step of the plan, and what was the success rate? All of these had to be calculated step by step. The only good news for Song Qingshu now was that the lord of the castle had not really lost his temper. Song Qingshu felt that given the lord's eyes and ears, he probably already knew that the people who insisted on competing with Immortal Castle for the stone ghost mask had some background and weren't to be trifled with. If the other party was just Great Death Courting Senior, it would be fine. But the problem now was that behind Great Death Courting Senior stood a top expert whose realm was far beyond the soul formation stage. Who could this person be? Song Qingshu had no way of knowing. Right now, the only clue they had was the 3rd saint, whom they had completely lost contact with. All these mysteries could only be solved after they found the third saint. Song Qingshu sighed. Pen in hand, he was pondering the wording of the review report when his phone rang. This red phone was an internal hotline that could be used directly to reach him. Song Qingshu looked at the time a little irritably. Who would be looking for him at this hour? After pondering for a moment, he directly picked up the phone. Who is this? Hello, is this Brother Song? I'm Zhou Jia. Song Qingshu was blank for a moment. He knew too many people, so many that he couldn't remember them all at all. Originally, when he went to work, there was a phone book in his office which was full of numbers, and he could casually flip through it to find out who it was. But the problem was that he was at home now. Facing a person calling him out of the blue and calling him XXX, Song Qingshu felt a little tired. He knew a lot of people with the surname Zhou. Who the hell would know which Zhou Jia it was? Fortunately, the person on the other end of the line was quite self-aware. I'm Zhou Jia from Green Gang, the one with the big nostrils. Oh, so it was Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang. Song Qingshu instantly knew who it was. He was a famous bull-nosed gangster with big nostrils, and was nicknamed Big Nostril. Actually, as long as he said his nickname, Song Qingshu would immediately know who it was. What can I do for you, gang leader Zhou? Song Qingshu asked. Green Gang was the largest underground gang in Songhai City. When Immortal Castle had first been founded, it had had a close relationship with Green Gang. Before they had set up their own intelligence network, a lot of information had to be obtained through Green Gang. Over the years, the relationship between Immortal Castle and Green Gang had faded, and they only had some business dealings. Thus, Song Qingshu hadn't expected the leader of Green Gang, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, to suddenly call him. Brother Song, I really don't know who to call. There's something that's a little troublesome right now. I don't know if you've heard, it's something new on Weibo. Zhou Jia spoke anxiously for a long time, but Song Qingshu laughed first. Wang Situ is angry because of a woman. Is this a new meme? I seem to have read that online author's book. You mean, his wife was molested? Ha 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 ha. On the other end of the line, the face of Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, instantly darkened. The person who molested his wife was my cousin. Song Qingshu's laughter abruptly stopped. Zhou Jia sighed. It seems that Brother Song still doesn't know about this. But this matter has blown up, it's quite troublesome. Listening to Zhou Jia's explanation, the smile on Song Qingshu's face gradually disappeared, and he no longer treated this matter as a joke. You mean, the leader of Exploding Sky Sect, Su Ke, publicly announced the Heavenly Dao bounty on Weibo and received the support of countless cultivators? Even that evil monarch Jun Xia increased the bounty? Hearing this, Song Qingshu couldn't help sighing inwardly. This matter was really troublesome. Was a Heavenly Dao bounty something an ordinary person could issue? The person who was qualified to issue a Heavenly Dao bounty was either the Pope or the head of a sect. Even if it could be revoked, it couldn't be done at will. The most important thing was that the leader of Exploding Sky Sect, Su Ke, was famous for being ruthless. He was an existence that even Immortal Castle didn't dare provoke. Song Qingshu, I say, gang leader Zhou, your cousin could have molested anyone, but he had to molest the wife of this internet guru. Zhou Jia, Brother Song, I can only look for you. I only have this one cousin, think of a way to help me suppress this matter. Song Qingshu was directly speechless. Do you know how scary Guru Wang Situ's fans are? The leader of Exploding Sky Sect only knows how to use Weibo. Those big shots who don't use Weibo are probably observing him in private. Song Qingshu felt that he wasn't exaggerating to scare people. After all, even the Lord of the Castle had read Let Go of That Wet Nurse written by Wang Situ. However, the Lord of the Castle didn't use Weibo. On the other end of the line, Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, gritted his teeth. How about this, Brother Song? If you can help me suppress this matter, I'll tell you something that will raise your spirits. Song Qingshu thought for a moment, then shook his head. It'll be difficult. Just as he was about to hang up, Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, said directly, "I know that Brother Song has been looking for the whereabouts of the maker of the stone ghost mask. I have a clue here. If Brother Song can help me, I'll tell you everything." Chapter 128. When Immortal Castle had first been established back then, it had relied on Green Gang to build its own intelligence network in Songhai City for a long time. Over the years, Green Gang's value in Immortal Castle's eyes had weakened, and their relationship wasn't as close as before. Between the forces, there was originally a layer of mutual benefit relationship. Once this layer of mutual benefit balance was broken, the relationship would drift apart. As the leader of Green Gang, Zhou Jia was naturally well aware of this. Thus, out of consideration for Green Gang's future development, Zhou Jia had been quietly expanding his own intelligence network over the years in an attempt to secure the throne of Songhai City's #1 underground intelligence network. But Immortal Castle's development had been too rapid in recent years. However, even if he couldn't win on paper, Zhou Jia had still found another way. He had inadvertently asked around about the stone ghost mask. He also knew that Immortal Castle had been looking for the maker of the stone ghost mask for many years. Song Qingshu subconsciously swallowed, because this condition indeed sounded very tempting. On the other end of the line, Zhou Jia knew he had a chance, and hurriedly continued to say with a flattering smile, "Brother Song, you just need to think of a way to control public opinion and suppress Weibo. I only have this one cousin, so I have to protect him no matter what." Song Qingshu sighed. "I admit that your condition is very tempting. But you should know that the head of Exploding Sky sect has already made a move. Even if my Immortal Castle intervenes." Zhou Jia interrupted him. "Brother Song, I can only rely on you in this matter. Just try to reduce the impact of this incident as much as possible. Of course, whether we win or lose in the end, I will tell you everything I know about the maker of the stone ghost mask." This was quite sensible, and Song Qingshu finally nodded in satisfaction. "Very well, I'll try my best." After saying that, Song Qingshu closed the phone, and then fell into a dilemma again. Who on earth should he look for? Song Qingshu thought for a while, then finally picked up his phone again and quickly dialed a number. "It's me, I'm Song Qingshu. Help me answer Mayor Ding's call." Mohawk Head's cousin, the leader of Green Gang, had just called Song Qingshu for help when the battle on Weibo continued. It had been 4 hours since the incident, and it was almost 12 o'clock, but Weibo was still as lively as it was during the day. As the incident continued to be published, Father Wang's trending Weibo post, "Wang Situ in a rage for a beauty," had already been marked with the word "explode." When a weak woman encountered a lecher, how to respond and how to guard against it became a hot topic online. The netizens were reposting and expressing their support. Even the keyboard warriors were staying up all night. As long as they could find a sense of existence in the crowd, they would feel extremely satisfied. But soon, someone posted a message online, along with a series of angry emojis. Strange. The Weibo post that I just commented on disappeared. Even the views on the upper right corner of the Weibo posts that I posted before have turned gray. The netizen took a screenshot to express his dissatisfaction. Soon, someone commented, "I thought I was the only one whose Weibo post was locked. So there are other people. F***CK. I've found allies. I'm not alone. Why did you lock my Weibo after painstakingly typing such a long post? I support Guru Wang Situ." This definitely wasn't the netizens making a fuss out of boredom, because Father Wang had also noticed that the number of likes and comments on his post was continuously decreasing. After 4 hours of accumulating likes, it had clearly been close to 200,000, but when it refreshed just now, there were only 110,000 left. Half of it had been deducted. Wang Ling also noticed that a lot of the online comments had disappeared. There had been some people who had previously sent out human addresses. These addresses had yet to be verified, but they had all been directly deleted by Weibo on the grounds that they were prohibited information. It was very obvious that someone was deliberately blocking the news in order to reduce the number of trending searches. Father Wang waited patiently in front of the computer for 15 minutes, and noticed that the word explode next to the trending searches had already disappeared. Even his ranking had dropped 2 ranks in a row, and he could only watch helplessly as it dropped from first to third. In the study, Father Wong sat in front of the computer screen, and the ashtray on his desk was already full of cigarette butts. He had already smoked all the cigarettes in the pack. Wang Ling was wondering if he should use his teleportation ability to help Father Wong buy a pack from the supermarket. After all, this was the only thing he could do for his dad before Father Wong relied on his own abilities to find that Mohawk scum. But very quickly, Wang Ling realized that he had been thinking too much, because he saw Father Wong get up and directly take down an iron box from the bookcase on the side. Inside were 10 black cigars neatly arranged. Father Wong directly lit one and put it in his mouth. Wang Ling's heart couldn't help trembling again. He was stunned to realize that Father Wong's dark state was getting worse and worse. In the study, Father Wong puffed on the cigar. Staring at the cigars, Wang Ling slowly remembered that this box of Father Wong's cigars had been a gift from a fan a few months ago. When he had signed for the express delivery, Father Wong had still been typing in the study, and it had been Wang Ling who had come downstairs to sign for him, so he still had a vague impression of it. But at that time, Wang Ling hadn't paid much attention to what on earth was inside the box. After receiving the iron box, Father Wong had put it away on the bookshelf without touching it. Judging from the packaging alone, these cigars didn't seem to be very expensive, but the material inside each cigar was extremely special. Through his heavenly eye, Wang Ling could see that this single cigar contained more than 300 precious treasures of heaven and earth. Among all these treasures of heaven and earth, Wang Ling could actually detect a hint of auspicious dragon grass from afar. This was a spirit medicine that had been cultivated in Huaxiu Nation, and had the ability to revive the dead. It was currently a special medicine used in the world to treat cancer. Just a little bit of it was enough to purify all the cancer cells in the body. It was very obvious that this fan had specially made these cigars. To actually use auspicious dragon grass to make cigars, who on earth was this person? While Wang Ling was still puzzled, Father Wong had already smoked half of his cigar. As Father Wong had expected, someone was now doing everything they could to block news on Weibo. Just now, the topic, Wang Situ in a fury for a beauty, had dropped several places, and was about to drop out of the top 10. Everyone, repost it again. Help Guru Wang Situ. It's dropped again. This Weibo is really trash. It's a shady operation. It's really shameless. I'll repost it. I'll repost it. I'll repost it again. I don't believe it can keep dropping. Almost 500,000 reposts. It's been stolen by a shampoo ad that popped up out of nowhere. Who on earth gave you the confidence? Piaomu? Netizens all felt that it was unfair for Father Wong, but there was nothing anyone could do when it was obvious that someone was manipulating things from behind the scenes. Looking at these online comments, Father Wong felt his temper flare up. Manipulating things from behind the scenes? No way. Wang Ling saw Father Wong turn the iron box that contained the cigars upside down and open the lid. Wang Ling's eyebrows twitched. This cigar box actually had 2 openings, and there was a small layer on the back. Right after that, Wang Ling saw Father Wong take out a black cell phone that he had never seen before from the back of the cigar box. There was only one phone number in the contact list on the phone. Without thinking, Father Wong directly dialed it. Chapter 129. At 12:00 in the evening, it was already deep into the night. Mayor Ding Yunsong, who lived on the top floor of a staff apartment in the municipal government office in central Songhai City, was wearing a nightgown as he studied a foreign language with a blonde foreign Lolita. At that moment, however, he suddenly received an urgent call. Mayor Ding was clearly a little unhappy that his mood had been disturbed. When he picked up the phone, his tone was gloomy. Who is this? The person on the other end of the line only said 3 words, Song Qingshu. As soon as he heard these 3 words, Mayor Ding suddenly shuddered, and he immediately perked up and smiled obsequiously. So it's Mr. Song. Mr. Song, why are you looking for me so late at night? Mayor Ding, you already know about what happened on Weibo, right? That Wang Situ's wife was groped by someone, and the whole city is in an uproar. Song Qingshu didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Ding Yunsong nodded in all apparent seriousness. Of course I know about this. What he actually didn't know was that he was still busy learning a foreign language at this time, and had no time to pay attention to what was going on Weibo. The person who groped her is one of my little brothers. He drank 2 bottles of erguotu that day, and his mind was a little muddled. It was actually all a misunderstanding, Song Qingshu said. I understand what Mr. Song means, but there has to be a process for dealing with the aftermath, Song Qingshu nodded. I also understand what you mean. Within half an hour after this call, 3 million yuan will be transferred to your foreign account, and you'll be responsible for dealing with the aftermath. As for Wang Situ's family, you'll also have to pay them to keep their mouths shut. This will prevent them from spouting nonsense. Both of them were experienced people, and with just a few words, they immediately understood the meaning of this call. As the mayor of Songhai City, Ding Yunsong addressed Song Qingshu as Mr. Song. Anyone with a discerning eye could see the stakes in this. Ding Yunsong was well aware that if Immortal Castle hadn't supported him back then, he wouldn't even have had the chance to sit in this position. Ding Yunsong was silent for a while, and finally nodded. Don't worry, Mr. Song. By midnight, I guarantee that the popularity of this Weibo post will no longer appear in the eyes of the public. After the short call, Ding Yunsong made a few more calls. The CEO of Weibo, the technical department manager of the municipal government office. Ding Yunsong called everyone who was related to this matter and could suppress the influence of public opinion one by one to express his condolences. It was not Ding Yunsong's first time controlling the power of public opinion. The first time he did it, he didn't know who to look for, but now he was familiar with it. After making dozens of calls in a row, Ding Yunsong stretched and looked at his watch. It was already 2 in the morning, the little foreign loli in lace suspenders was already asleep. At this moment, Ding Yunsong had lost all interest. Let's rest early tonight. Ding Yunsong sighed and gently walked to the little loli's side and tucked her in. Just as he was about to kiss the little loli's forehead, his goddamn phone rang again. This time, Ding Yunsong was really a little impatient. Damn it, can't you just let me study my foreign language properly? Mayor Ding picked up the phone angrily. I'm Ding Yunsong. It's already so late, can't you report it tomorrow? On the other end of the line, the girl operator with the pleasant voice also looked helpless after being scolded. Mayor Ding, don't be angry, this is the Discipline Inspection Department. The Discipline Inspection Department? Then hurry up and put it through. For some reason, Ding Yunsong had a bad premonition in his heart. The officer from the Discipline Inspection Department only said a few words, and Ding Yunsong's drowsiness instantly disappeared, and his face turned pale. The higher-ups have instructed us to thoroughly investigate the case of internet guru Wang Situ in order to make an example out of him. This is just a web novelist, is there a need to take it so seriously? Yes, Mayor Ding. Do you think I sound like I'm joking? You haven't seen Weibo, have you? The highest cultivation court and the cultivation procuratorate have already made it clear that they will legislate specifically against the bad behavior of groping in society. The higher-ups have expressed that they will pay serious attention to this matter. Ding Yunsong couldn't stop cold sweat from flowing down his face. The higher-ups? Which higher-ups? Which higher-ups could trigger the highest cultivation court and the cultivation procuratorate? Legislation was such a big matter, and it was decided just like that. This was clearly such a small matter, how could it cause such a big wave? Ding Yunsong listened to the phone, a little dazed. From this call from the Discipline Inspection Department, Ding Yunsong already knew that this matter was no longer something he could control. Song Qingshu had indeed found him, but it was obvious that the other party was also looking for someone, and had found a big shot that he couldn't shake. At that moment, Ding Yunsong felt like he had to suffer in silence. He didn't even dare to hang up the phone, because he was almost certain that the higher-ups of the other departments were already in a mess. They were waiting for his latest instructions. Because the instructions issued by the higher-ups and the phone call he had made earlier were 2 completely different things. Licking his dry lips, Ding Yunsong's forehead was already dripping with sweat. Less than 10 seconds after the call from the Discipline Inspection Department ended, Ding Yunsong's phone rang again. This time, Ding Yunsong took a look at the caller ID and was so scared that he almost peed his pants. It was actually Secretary Shaw, the secretary of the Municipal Party Committee. As soon as he picked up the call, he heard a magnetic and serious voice on the other end of the line, just as he had expected. Comrade Ding Yunsong, what kind of mayor are you? Did you ask you to suppress public opinion? The higher-ups haven't given any instructions yet, but you're already one step ahead of them. Did you accept someone else's red packet to do something? Comrade Ding Yunsong, I solemnly warn you, don't think about stirring up trouble all day. Have you watched that TV series In the Name of Cultivation? I think that the mayor who slipped out of the country in the first 2 episodes is a lot like you. Ding Yunsong was already too scared to speak. Whether or not you can keep your position as mayor depends entirely on your attitude towards this matter, understand? Speaking up to this point, Secretary Shaw's voice suddenly sank a lot. This matter, the old leader is very angry. He got up in the middle of the night and flew into a rage. He said that the atmosphere in our Shanghai city is so chaotic that we can't even hear the voices of the people. He wants to thoroughly investigate the corrupt practices of city officials. Next week, fellow cultivators from the Central Cultivation Anti-Corruption Inspection Team will come to our city for an inspection. Hearing this, Ding Yunsong trembled all over. Excuse me, Secretary Shaw, which old leader is this? Mayor Ding, are you playing dumb with me? You should have already guessed it, right? The 10 founding generals were all his students. Which old leader do you think he is? Chapter 130. It was destined to be a restless day. In the wee hours of the morning, Song Qingshu received a text message from Ding Yunsong. Summarizing the message, it meant that the matter had blown up and attracted the attention of national leaders and big shots from all walks of life, and it was impossible to rely on the power of a mayor alone to suppress it. When he saw this message, Song Qingshu's eyelids couldn't help twitching. Why did he have to run into big shots who couldn't be provoked recently? There was the mysterious youngster who had appeared in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa before, and now there was this inexplicable internet guru author Wang Situ. Song Qingshu had never felt so aggrieved before. While he was feeling gloomy, Song Qingshu's wristwatch rang. Brother Song, it's Zhou Qing. I saw that Weibo's popularity had clearly dropped, and it hasn't even been 2 hours. Why is it back up again? Did something happen? Zhou Qing, the leader of the Green Gang, sounded a little anxious. Song Qingshu rubbed the space between his eyebrows a little irritably. I can't do anything about it. That Wang Situ's background is a little beyond my expectations. Even our Immortal castle can't touch him. How could this be? Zhou Qing was also stupefied. After a moment of silence, Song Qingshu said, My suggestion now is to hurry up and arrange for your cousin to go abroad and lie low for a while. It's best if he doesn't come back for at least half a year. Is the situation that serious? Song Qingshu sighed. You can weigh it up. All I can tell you is that this matter has already alarmed the 10 founding generals of Huaxiu Nation. Zhou Qing kept quiet out of fear. What on earth was the background of someone who could reach the 10 founding generals? It was 6:00 in the morning on May 27th, Shanghai Dahuang International Airport. A man with a mohawk's hairstyle and a mask timidly arrived at the airport terminal with a black briefcase in his arms. He spoke on the phone in a low voice. Hello, brother, I'm already at the airport. Zhou Qing's voice came from the other end of the line. Zhou Wei, I've already arranged everything for you. I bought the earliest ticket for you at 6:20. Take the green channel 10 minutes early, no matter who talks to you, ignore them, understand? Get on the plane first. Okay brother, I understand. Zhou Wei's face was covered in cold sweat as he hung up the phone. At the same time, he was filled with regret. He really wanted to chop off his hand. Why couldn't he control himself back then? Zhou Wei tightened his cap, took out a pair of sunglasses from his lapel, and put them on, fully armed. And at this moment, he suddenly felt a chill behind him, as if someone was staring at him. Zhou Wei subconsciously turned around and found that there was a black cat looking at him from under the seat at the back of the terminal. So it was a cat. Zhou Wei was relieved. These days, it was not strange for pets to appear in the airport, and many pets were spiritual pets with spiritual intelligence. As long as the owner bought the ticket, they could board the plane by themselves. Some spiritual pets with spiritual intelligence comparable to humans could even buy their own tickets to travel abroad. Zhou Wei felt that this ordinary-looking black cat was probably someone's pet, waiting for its owner under the chair. However, Zhou Wei still felt a little weird being stared at by a cat. He immediately got up and sat down where he couldn't see the black cat. As soon as Zhou Wei left, the black cat under the chair actually stretched out its hand to fold its ear, which was actually hiding a pair of wireless earphones. The black cat kept its cool and said in a low voice, "Attention, battalion commanders, target detected." "Monk, how's the situation on your side?" "Monk, reporting, Commander. Everything is going smoothly." Zheng Tan nodded. "Good, the other teams continue to keep an eye on him. Monk, hurry up and bring him here. We must intercept this guy before he boards the plane." Zhou Wei didn't know if it was because he had done something wrong that had made him overly sensitive. There were clearly 10 minutes left before he could board the plane through the Green Channel, but at that moment, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles as he sat in the terminal. There were only a few scattered guests in the terminal at 6:00. Zhou Qing had specially arranged for Zhou Wei to sit in the VIP terminal, which was even more sparsely populated. However, Zhou Wei always felt that there were countless pairs of eyes looking at him. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw an airport ground crew cleaning with a vacuum cleaner a dozen or so meters away. It seemed like this person was staring at him. Zhou Wei covered his face with a magazine and snuck a glance. He realized that the ground crew at the airport was actually an old lady. Zhou Wei shrank back in his clothes. For the first time in his 180-meter-tall body, he felt a trace of coldness in his heart. This was just an old lady, and she was so far away from him. Her old eyes were blurry, she probably couldn't see him, could she? Zhou Wei was very nervous. In the end, after struggling for a good while, he decided to change seats and stay further away from this old lady ground crew. As soon as Zhou Wei left, the old lady crouched behind the vacuum cleaner and silently took out a walkie-talkie. "All units, attention. The target has moved." This is one of the few large-scale public reports that our General Administration of Harmony has received this year. "Everyone, please be on full alert. Old Zhang, how's the situation on your side?" "Grandpa Zhang, reporting to Miss Dong. Everything is going smoothly." Madame Dong nodded. "Good. The rest of you, keep an eye on him. The target will be boarding in 5 minutes. We must stop him before he makes any further moves." Time passed by minute, but Zhou Wei felt that every second felt like a year. Finally, it was time to board the plane. Zhou Wei held his black briefcase and, racing against time, rushed to the airport's green passage almost immediately. He didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. At the entrance of the green passage, a beautiful, brown-haired, long-legged lady stopped Zhou Wei. "Sir, the green passage is now open. Please show me your boarding pass and passport." Zhou Wei hurriedly took out the things from his pocket and handed them to the lady. At the same time, his eyes kept looking around nervously. "Hello, Mr. Tom Zhou. Welcome aboard. I wish you a pleasant journey." Just as the lady handed the boarding pass and passport to Zhou Wei, almost instantly, 2 large groups of people appeared behind them. It was a group of old men and old women wearing sunglasses and red ribbons tied around their arms. The old lady in the lead was actually the ground crew member who had pushed the vacuum cleaner. What was even more frightening was that there were dozens of cats next to the group of old men and women. A black cat stood at the very front with its arms crossed, staring fixedly at Zhou Wei. And behind this group of black cats stood a fat police officer. Zhou Wei instantly broke out in a cold sweat. It turned out that from that moment on, he had already been monitored. "Catch this molesting bastard." Madame Dong pointed at Zhou Wei and shouted. In a short period of time, a large group of cats meowed and a large group of old men and women pounced on Zhou Wei at the same time. Chapter 131. When Zhou Wei had been caught, he was still in a stupefied state. Zheng Tan's independent regiment and Madame Dong's General Administration of Harmony had jointly launched a mass roundup operation at the airport, and finally ended smoothly after 2 hours. Of course, it was Wang Ling who had released the news of Zhou Wei's escape. There was a big baccarat bar in the center of Songhai City, and the boss of the bar was Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang. After Zhou Wei had been arrested, all the major news media had scrambled to report the incident at the same time. In the bar, Zhou Jia was completely stupefied when he saw the news. After receiving Song Qingshu's opinion, he had almost immediately contacted his contacts and won them over. After finding all the connections he could use, he helped Zhou Wei change his foreign nationality and leave through the Green Channel. But Zhou Jia had never expected that he would still fail in the end. This web novelist Wang Situ, who on earth was he? When he saw Zhou Wei being censored in the news, and then personally handcuffed by a fat police officer and taken away from the scene, Zhou Jia felt his scalp go numb. There were many emotions in it. There was anger, and there was also fear. Green Gang had been in Songhai City for so many years, but Zhou Jia had never felt like this. He felt like a fish being toyed with in the palm of someone's hand. Silently lighting a cigarette, Zhou Jia dialed Song Qingshu again. "Brother Song," on the other end of the line, Song Qingshu also sighed. "You don't need to say anything, I saw the situation on the news." "Then what should we do now?" Zhou Jia really was at a loss. "My suggestion now is to quickly relocate Green Gang. Even if it's to a neighboring city district in the short term, don't stay in Songhai City. Don't let this incident affect your Green Gang and cause even greater losses." Song Qingshu rubbed his brow, feeling a headache coming on. "I know you must be feeling very aggrieved, but we still have to face reality. We can't touch this person in the short term. Also, it's best not to try to investigate his true identity." Zhou Jia nodded and said, "I understand, Brother Song." Now, whether it was Green Gang or Immortal Castle, they were all grasshoppers tied to the same thread. Zhou Jia was well aware that the reason why Song Qingshu was still willing to help him was because Immortal Castle was also afraid that if Green Gang was affected by the aftermath of this incident, it would affect Immortal Castle's development in Songhai City. Zhou Jia's heart was as clear as a mirror on this point. "Brother Song, don't worry, I'll immediately start making arrangements to evacuate all of Green Gang's main forces in Songhai City within 2 days. Emichim, just evacuate as soon as possible." Song Qingshu nodded. "Although we can't take revenge immediately, we still have a chance to win. And in order to strike back in this matter, we must learn to win against the heavens by half a pawn. Do you know where the chance of success lies?" On the other end of the phone, Zhou Jia was silent. Winning against heaven by half a point? He cupped his chin and pondered for a moment. Finally, he raised his head and answered, "It's Qi Tongwei." Song Qingshu pulled a long face. "Of course not. Zhou Jia, I'm slow-witted. Please give me some pointers, Brother Song." Song Qingshu, "Then hurry up and tell me where the maker of the stone ghost mask is. It's already been a few days, why are you still hiding it? You won't be able to produce any offspring with that information, trust me." Zhou Jia, this Weibo battle over, groping, ended with Father Wang's victory. In the end, not only had Father Wang defeated his opponent, he had also been crushed to death with one finger by the strongest fan whom Father Wang had invited. On May 28, the 5th Friday of the semester, Wang Ling saw the following news in today's Cultivation Morning News. First, what's the real reason behind the mysterious Eastern force behind Wang Sidu's complete victory? Download the Weibo app and check it out. Second, a temporary worker has performed a miraculous feat again. Experienced Officer Wang personally apprehended the groping suspect Zhou. In the interview, the experienced Officer Wang said in a simple and honest manner that this was all the people's credit. Third, yesterday, after being chased and intercepted by people and a group of cats, the groping suspect Zhou, who was wanted nationwide, was apprehended at Dahuang International Airport. Experts say that there is a 99% chance that this group of people and cats are the descendants of Chaoyang City residents, Wang Ling. When Wang Ling returned to school in the morning, almost all the topics in class today revolved around the arrest at the airport on Thursday. Because of Father Wang, the groping case had continued to ferment in the last 2 days, and everyone in the country knew about it. Who knew where Dopigua had gotten the news, but he started to spread the gossip in class in all seriousness. Did you know? I heard that the suspect in the groping case has a very powerful background. His brother is the leader of Songhai City's largest underground gang, the Green Gang. He's extremely powerful. When he was at the airport back then, he was so close to slipping into the Green Channel and escaping. Super Chen frowned. He can't even escape with this kind of background, and the municipal government is paying close attention to this matter. Doesn't that prove that Guru Wang Situ has an even more powerful figure behind him? Feather Lin, it's so early in the morning and you're talking nonsense. In any case, I'm just concerned about what kind of punishment that person will receive after he's arrested. It won't just be detention, right? Lotus Sun shook her head and added, this matter has blown up quite a bit. This person probably won't be able to get out until he's locked up for a few years. Last night, the municipal government also issued a notice requesting our Huagua Water Curtain Group to launch a pepper spray for women to coordinate with the government's promotion of preventing perverts nationwide. Feather Lin was instantly a little disappointed. That's it? I thought, this person's Tower of Babel would be chopped off. Everyone. This was 2F*** King Brutal. While everyone was discussing this, Dopigua suddenly interjected. I have a video of the arrest at the airport yesterday. If anyone wants it, you can look for me. It's 50 yuan each, and I'm honest with you. After saying this, the whole class was deathly silent. Seeing that he was ignored, Dopigua looked a little embarrassed. However, Master of Dopey was Master of Dopey in the end. He immediately grabbed Little Peanut, who was on the side collecting his homework, and eased the awkward atmosphere. Classmate Su Xiao, I know you're very interested in my video. Do you want to buy it? Little Peanut pulled back his neck and broke free from Dopigua's unexpected bear hug. The expression on his face was incomparably disappointed. Dopigua was so frightened by his expression that he immediately let go. It's just promoting a video, you don't have to be so unhappy, right? Little Peanut shook his head. No, I was just wondering why I was targeted by a video seller. Dopigua, everyone. Chapter 132. It was still May 28th on Friday in the 5th week of the semester. During the Tao Talismans class, Teacher Pan announced something miraculous in class. Standing on the dais, Teacher Pan pushed up her glasses and said mysteriously, Students, after careful consideration by the higher-ups and in cooperation with the municipal government, we've increased the publicity of women's anti-wolf education. The military training that was originally planned for sophomore year will be carried out ahead of schedule. In the middle of next month, there will be a 5-day military training activity at the Cultivation Military Base in Songhai City. After hearing Teacher Pan's words, the whole class instantly boiled over. Whether it was boys or girls, the moment they heard the word military training, they would definitely be happy. Because during the military training, the school wouldn't assign homework. But as students of number 60 high school's elite class, the students of grade 1, class 3, who knew Teacher Pan's character very well, didn't show much joy on their faces. Because for Teacher Pan, since it was homework, no matter how much it was, it had to be made up. Wang Ling's group of people who had gone to number 59 high school for the exchange meet back then was the best example. Just as the whole class started a new round of discussion, 3 people silently covered their faces. Super Chen covered his face because he was crying tears of joy. As a hot-blooded sports nerd, Super Chen felt that it was finally time for him to show his talents. Wang Ling covered his face because he hadn't expected the group activity to start again so soon. He vaguely remembered the image of Odd Zhua carrying Secretary Dakang's 2 hairy legs the last time he had gone to number 59 high school. Every time he thought of this, he felt a headache coming on. After all, for Wang Ling, the group activity was the beginning of all the trouble. The last person to cover his face was Little Peanut. That was because he had heard from clan leader Yu in grade 3 that the school required a physical examination before the military training. The school authorities needed to understand the students' specific physical qualities in order to formulate a scientific military training plan in line with the military training base. Under Teacher Pan's gaze, the whole class fell silent once more. Sure enough, Teacher Pan cleared her throat and continued to say, "Class is suspended this afternoon. Student Lotus Sun will lead the girls. Student Super Chin will lead the boys to the infirmary on the 3rd floor for a physical examination. Everyone has to go. If there's no special reason, those who can't go will go home and add 2 more exam papers to their homework." Hearing this, Little Peanut silently withdrew the hand he had just stretched out. Wang Ling. Sure enough, compared with the physical examination, homework was the real root of all evil. Ever since he was a child, he had actually rarely participated in a physical examination. That was because with the quality of his mortal body, there was no need for a physical examination at all. For cultivators, as students of a foundation establishment high school, the physique of a foundation establishment high school was naturally much higher than that of an ordinary person. Wang Ling had always felt that the school's one-sided physical examination actually didn't have any substantial effect. In other words, they didn't check the places that should be checked and blindly checked the places that shouldn't be checked. Wang Ling felt that what the old aunties in the infirmary were really concerned about wasn't the students' physical fitness, but simply wanted to see how they were developing in certain areas. Hence, Wang Ling and Little Peanut both had headaches about the physical examination. It was just that the reason was the exact opposite of Little Peanut's. Little Peanut felt that he was too young and hadn't reached the standard of a normal boy, and that he would be laughed at. Wang Ling felt that he was too big for a normal boy, and would attract attention and attention. In the afternoon, there was a long line outside the infirmary. Super Chen had brought all the boys from grade 1, class 3, and they would go through the physical examination first. Just as Wang Ling had predicted, a short old auntie with a slightly hunched back stood at the door of the infirmary. She wore a white coat and a pair of unfathomable reading glasses, and her gaze was like a searchlight as she scanned the crowd. "Be quiet, don't make any noise. Wait for Dr. Song to give you a physical examination." Dr. Song? Somehow, Wang Ling felt that this form of address was a little familiar, and sneaked a peek with his heavenly eye. F***K, this Dr. Song was Lai Mengmeng. At that very moment, Lai Mengmeng was wearing white gloves with an expressionless face. He rubbed some lubricant on his middle finger and checked the health of a male student's anus. As soon as the tip of his finger pierced into the skin, the boy revealed an expression that resembled Liang Fifan reciting a poem. Wang Ling. Someone heard a male student screaming inside and couldn't help but ask in the team, "What the F***ck? Don't tell me everyone has to go through it once?" The old auntie who was standing at the door to maintain order gave a kind smile. "This is just a sampling test, 2 per class." Then, the old auntie glanced at a booklet. The students in charge of the sampling test in grade 1, class 3 are Super Chen and Hirogwa. Are both of them here? Super Chen and Dopigua couldn't help trembling. Very soon, all the boys in class 1 had been checked, and it was finally grade 1, class 3's turn. Led by Super Chen and Hirogwa, the 2 students in charge of the sampling test, a group of boys entered the infirmary one after another. There was a strong smell of disinfectant inside. Lai Mengmeng's expression finally changed when he saw Wang Ling, but he quickly regained his composure and put on the evil white gloves. He pointed at the small bed in front of him to Super Chen and Hirogwa. "You two, take off your pants and lie on the bed, then, open it yourselves." The 2 of them nodded fearfully and walked over. After the 2 of them were in position, Lai Mengmeng closed the curtains. Through the shadows of the curtains, everyone could see what Lai Mengmeng was going to do next. Lai Mengmeng finished applying the lubricant. There was an evil and slippery sizzling sound from behind the curtains, and then Lai Mengmeng hit the bullseye with the Millennium Kill. Right after that, Super Chen's pained and shrill scream came from behind the curtains. Little Peanut was already so scared that he covered his eyes and couldn't bear to look at it at all. Wang Ling couldn't help sighing in his heart. In ancient times, there were people who sang about flowers in the backyard across the river. Today, there were people watching from behind the curtains. Very soon, Super Chin was done with the testing, and he tiptoed out from behind the curtains with his hands on his butt. Several boys in the class snickered on the side. Is it that painful? A nosy boy patted Super Chin on the shoulder. Super Chin glared at that boy and returned the gesture with a, "If you're so good, you do it," expression. At that moment, everyone could see that Lai Mengmeng had already changed into a new pair of white gloves and had applied the lubricant on them. But this time, the scream that everyone had expected didn't come. It could only be said that as the successor of the 5 pens, Master of Dopey was in the end Master of Dopey. They immediately questioned Lai Mengmeng's level and ability with a professional eye. Behind the curtains, Dopey Gua sighed. "You're poking in the wrong place. It's very easy to get hurt." Everyone. "What the hell? Why are you so familiar with it?" "Dopey Gua, you're an intern, right? Lie down, I'll teach you." Wang Ling, as an ordinary person, when facing a foundation establishment stage cultivator, he would not be able to do anything. Lai Mengmeng's thin and weak body couldn't resist at all, and he was directly pressed down on the bed by Dopey Gua. When he felt Dopey Gua's white gloves poking into his backyard, Lai Mengmeng was already in tears. Damn. It really wasn't King easy to earn extra money these days. Chapter 133. Because the General Cultivation Hospital didn't have enough manpower for the pre-military training physical examination, Lai Mengmeng had been recruited online as a temporary worker. He was only in charge of the posterior flower sampling test. Apart from that, there were also routine physical examinations such as height, weight, blood, and urine tests. Of all these dazzling tests, nothing was more painful than the so-called physical examination on the physical examination form. By standing on a scanner and using ionizing light technology, one could quickly detect bone density, bone condition, and the development of the boy's little brothers. This was the part that Little Peanut was most afraid of. During the blood test, Wang Ling felt very embarrassed, because when the female nurse had inserted a needle into his finger, the needle had actually gone askew. These needles had been specially customized by the General Cultivation Hospital, and could easily penetrate the flesh of a foundation establishment cultivator. Not believing it, the female nurse had inserted 2 more needles in a row, but both of them had gone askew. Just as the female nurse was about to complain to the head nurse about the quality of the needles, Wang Ling stuck his finger into his mouth and bit it open. The female nurse, Wang Ling, had managed to get through the first few parts without any mishaps, and had dealt with most of them. When it came to the final physical examination, Wang Ling was really nervous about it. Before science and technology had matured, specialized orthopedic experts would come to schools to perform physical examinations on cultivation school students. Furthermore, these old experts had one thing in common, and that was that they were very good at visual inspection, which had probably been passed down from Madame Dong. Without needing a ruler at all, they could tell at a glance how long a boy's little brother was and how it was developing. However, with the rapid development of science and technology in the last decade or so, it was clearly much more efficient than before. What used to be the most troublesome part of the physical examination was now all that was needed to stand on a machine and shine an ionizing light on it. Little Peanut was very nervous and restless, his eyes drifting about as his mind wandered. Because of his physique from a young age, Little Peanut's physique was a lot worse than that of normal foundation establishment students. Even his little brother seemed to be a little shorter than that of normal boys, which had haunted Little Peanut ever since he was a child. So much so that he usually only dared to go to the bathroom when there was no one around. In this respect, Little Peanut was actually very similar to Wang Ling. But the reason why he didn't go to the toilet was because he was too big. Super Chen and Dopey Gua, these 2 thick-skinned fellows, took the lead, and one after another, they stood on the ion machine and finished their measurements. On the other side, 5 meters away, 2 female nurses were staring at the screen. The expressions on their faces were as calm as if they had been through a storm. Soon, it was Little Peanut's turn. Standing on the plasma machine, Little Peanut closed his eyes a little fearfully and blushed. The ionic light slowly shone down from the top of Little Peanut's head. At that moment, Wang Ling, who was behind Little Peanut in line, secretly wagged his finger. Among the 3,000 great daos, there was a technique called grafting that allowed one to graft a part of one's body onto another. In order not to draw too much attention, Wang Ling felt that he could totally cooperate with Little Peanut. It was just that once the flower grafting spell was used and the spell was undone, a third of the body parts couldn't be retrieved. Very quickly, the beam of light shone on the middle of Little Peanut's body. All the boys saw that the two nurses in front of the screen were covering their mouths, revealing a shocked expression as if they had seen a ferocious beast. Holy shit! This was too big. How could such a small boy have such a thick and muscular part? Little Peanut slowly opened his eyes and somehow felt that something wasn't right. He saw the gazes of the two female nurses, and it was as if they wanted to eat him up, making him feel uneasy all over. 20 minutes later, everyone was done with their measurements. The physical examination report was quickly compiled by the computer and printed out. Everyone had a copy. After school, Little Peanut cringed as he looked at the report in his hand. He was shocked. 37 centimeters? F***K, this had already completely surpassed Europe and America, hadn't it? This was basically a donkey's penis, wasn't it? Was he that big? Little Peanut unzipped his pants in disbelief to take a peek, and was dumbfounded. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as the 37 centimeters on the physical examination report, it was clear that his little brother was already at the level of a normal boy, and even a little above average. Why was this happening? Student Su Xiao stood up from his seat in astonishment. This was the first time he had felt this heavy feeling, which he had never felt before. He was so moved that tears gushed out. Little Peanut had actually really grown up. Had the wish he had made on his birthday really come true? Thank you so much. Almighty cultivation god. Wang Ling. You got lucky. When Wang Ling returned home that night, he found that Mother Wang and the old man weren't there, and the kitchen was empty. Only the Wang father and son and Loopy Toad were left in the huge Wang family. The groping incident was currently in the limelight, and Mother Wang was the heroine of a story for the first time. All the major news media reporters were doing everything they could to create some juicy news about her. Whether it was Father Wang or Mother Wang, they couldn't bear to be disturbed. So after the couple discussed it, Father Wang decided to let Mother Wang and the old man take his salary card and quickly go on a holiday to relax and avoid the limelight. He didn't even take his luggage with him when he left. He could just buy clothes and daily necessities on the way. For the first time, Wang Ling felt that Father Wang was so rich. Sure enough, a man who doted on his wife was the most handsome. But with Mother Wang and the old man gone, dinner became a problem. In theory, Wang Ling didn't need to eat at all, and could rely on absorbing the spirit qi of heaven and earth every day to maintain his bodily functions. But after so many years, dinner had almost become a habit for Wang Ling. If he didn't eat dinner, it would always feel a little pointless. There was no way to order takeout. The Wang family's small villa was too remote, and wasn't within the range of takeout services at all. The only way now was for the father and son pair to take Loopy Toad out to look for food. Father Wang searched for the nearest business near East Huang Road. There was only one shop within 800 kilometers of East Huang Road called Midnight Dining Hall. Father Wang frowned, because he quickly found that this shop's rating was a little low. The overall rating on the Dubon Food Review website was actually only 2.6, and this was AF*** King 10-point scale. When they opened the menu provided by the shop, both father and son were stunned. A small bowl of Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles, a medium bowl of Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles, a large bowl of Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles, and then Chapter 134. If it was a normal cultivator, it would take about 20 minutes to fly 800 kilometers using the sword riding technique. Although it was a little far, it was just a teleportation distance for Wang Ling. He had Father Wang and Loopy Toad stick close to him, and 2 people and 1 dog arrived at the restaurant's entrance in a flash. This was a restaurant that looked a little old-fashioned. Its walls were made of wood and brick, and it gave off a dangerous feeling that it was on the verge of collapsing in the wind. The words, "Midnight Dining Hall," were written on a horizontal board at the entrance. The corners of the board were already a little cracked, and the owner had carelessly stuck 2 pieces of all-purpose adhesive tape on it to mend the holes. This made the restaurant look even older than the old buildings left behind in the Shao family compound. When they arrived at the restaurant's entrance, Wang Ling suddenly remembered that he had passed by this place before on his way to school. But because it had been too fast, he hadn't been able to see it clearly. But today, Wang Ling finally realized something. It turned out that this wasn't a public toilet. Don't be fooled by how shabby this restaurant looks. The more shabby it is, the more delicious the food. Wasn't that how that popular chef God's little store came to be? The father and son stood at the entrance of the restaurant, and Father Wang shrunk back in the cool breeze. Somehow, Wang Ling felt that he didn't sound very confident. The restaurant didn't have a door, and there was a tattered, sun-faded rag hanging at the entrance. Above the restaurant was an old-fashioned iron shutter door, which had to be pulled down with a long-handled hook by the side of the door before it could be locked every day. 2 people and 1 dog pulled open the rag and entered. The restaurant was so small that it could only fit 4 wooden tables with plastic stools on the sides. When Wang Ling entered, he saw the owner leaning against the kitchen door, smoking a cigarette. The owner had a buzz cut and was in his early 40s. His cheeks were unhealthily sunken and his eyes were very deep. There was also a 10-centimeter-long knife scar running from his forehead through his right eye to his neck. It was clear that this was a man with a story. "Heh, you're quite early today." Seeing that customers had arrived, the owner hurriedly stubbed out his cigarette, pointed to the handwritten menu hanging in the middle of the restaurant, and put his hands on his hips. "Apart from Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles, you can order whatever you want, as long as I know how to make it." "Father Wang, do you have fish ball noodles?" The boss shook his head. "We don't have any coarse flour." "Father Wang, what about fish ball rice noodles?" The boss shook his head again. "No fish balls." "Father Wang, if you don't have anything, then why did you open a shop?" The boss raised his eyebrows and said rather righteously, "It's not that there's nothing, but that you don't know how to order. Back then, Master taught me cooking, and I was his proudest disciple." "Father Wang, Wang Ling. If your Shifu saw that his proudest disciple was actually working in such a rotten shop, he would definitely choose to die, right?" Father Wang really didn't know what to order, so he simply looked at the menu and said, "Then let's have 2 medium bowls of Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles first." The boss nodded without saying a word. She turned around and went to the kitchen to prepare. Right after that, Wang Ling saw the boss turn on the range hood, which rumbled non-stop like a tractor. About 10 minutes later, 2 bowls of beef noodles with pickled cabbage were ready. The boss placed a bowl in front of the Wang father and son. He had also thoughtfully prepared a plate with a shaved beef bone on it, which had been specially prepared for Loopy Toad. Loopy Toad looked at the beef bone disinterestedly, and then contentedly licked the fly on it into its mouth. The boss. What surprised Wang Ling was that these 2 bowls of noodles looked pretty good. The bowls were a little old, but they weren't dirty. Father Wang slurped up a mouthful of noodles, then raised his head in surprise. It actually tasted pretty good. The only flaw was that the pickled cabbage wasn't sour enough. Father Wang frowned. "Boss, your pickled cabbage doesn't taste like it was pickled in Laotan?" "It's not sour at all." The boss asked strangely, "Who told you it was pickled in Laotan?" Father Wang pointed to the sign. "Can you read?" "Laotan pickled cabbage." "Let me tell you, I'm also a cultured person. Please give me a reasonable explanation, otherwise you're deceiving the consumers." The boss pursed his lips. "I'm Tan Siming, people who know me well call me Old Tan. I made this beef noodles with pickled cabbage. So I named it Laotan pickled cabbage beef noodles. Does this make sense?" Wang Ling and Father Wang. The Wang father and son were unexpectedly unable to refute this explanation. It was now almost 8:00 in the evening, and the Wang father and son were halfway through their noodles when there was suddenly movement at the door. Wang Ling saw that it was a young man with slanted bangs and a broken guitar on his back. He looked like a pretty down-and-out vagabond singer. Because he couldn't afford to rent a house in the city, the young man could only rent a house in the suburbs with the little money he earned in the city every day. Wang Ling had instantly read all of this from the young man's mind through memory reading. It wasn't that Wang Ling had deliberately read the young man's mind, but that it was a fairly natural way of thinking. Some people always like to write their emotions on their faces. It was very easy for Wang Ling to read the memories of this kind of person. If it was a man with a story, such as Old Antique or the boss standing in the kitchen right now, Wang Ling would never know what their pasts were unless he took the initiative to read them. It was very obvious that this young man was already a regular customer of the restaurant. When Boss Tan saw the young man, he directly nodded slightly and asked in a slightly magnetic voice, "Same old rules?" The young man nodded silently, carefully leaned his guitar against the corner of the wall, and found a place to sit down. Although the young man didn't speak, it was as if the boss's eyes could see through his thoughts. "I know, you participated in the talent show today. It looks like it didn't go very well." The young man lowered his head. In the kitchen, the boss prepared dinner for the young man as he comforted him. "Young man, you still have a chance. It's fine. Look, we also have a new customer today. Why don't you sing the song you participated in the talent show and let everyone listen to it?" The young man suddenly stood up a little excitedly. "Really, can I?" The Wang father and son put down their chopsticks at the same time and nodded seriously. Listening to a down-and-out vagabond singer singing in a deserted village restaurant was probably something Wang Ling would never experience again in his life. It was a very strange feeling. The young man bowed deeply to the boss and the Wang father and son, then cleared his throat and began to sing. "You stirred up the wind and clouds, swept me away, you lifted the rags, abandoned me, Father Wang, the boss, little brother. Your heavenly silkworm potato shredded rice is ready, you should eat first." Chapter 135. Wang Ling's first impression of this vagabond singer was that he had a strange accent from who knew where. Of course, putting these issues aside, Wang Ling felt that the young man sang pretty well overall. At least his voice was still in tune, but if he wanted to become a true professional singer through a talent show, this young man was clearly far from good. Wang Ling's knowledge of music was very limited, and he was just an amateur who knew a little about the guitar, so he couldn't give a more professional evaluation of the young man's voice. But when it came to how to stand out in a talent show, Wang Ling felt that there were several essential factors. First, he didn't have to be particularly handsome, but at least he had to be pleasing to the eye. Second, his voice didn't have to be particularly professional, but at least it had to be recognizable. It was useless to just sing in tune. Finally, the third and most important point was that his life experience must be miserable. And the more miserable, the better. It would be best if he could move the audience and the judges to tears just by listening to the first 10 or so words of his story. Unfortunately, this young man didn't have any of the above conditions. As a vagabond singer, Tang Yuning clearly didn't have any plans for his unrestrained appearance, and at first glance, he gave off a dirty feeling. Furthermore, this young man's life experience couldn't be considered miserable at all. At most, he could be considered a poor singer who persisted in his musical dream. There were too many people like this in Huaxiu Nation. If you wanted to enter the limelight through a talent show, at the very least, someone in your family had to be terminally ill. Wang Ling put half a mouthful of beef in his mouth as he fiercely criticized the current talent show in his heart, but the young man's eyes were red as he stared at the heavenly silkworm potato shredded rice in front of him. As expected, am I not suited to be a singer at all? His voice was very low, and there was a sense of inferiority in it, but everyone heard it. It was very obvious that the failure of today's talent show had been a huge blow to the young man. Boss Tan turned off the roaring range hood and wiped his greasy hands with a rag. He slowly walked over to the young man and patted his thin shoulder, which had a distinct collarbone. "Cheer up, little Tang." Who knew if it was because he was a chef all year round, but Boss Tan's physique was very strong, especially when compared with the young man's. Wang Ling had no doubt that if Boss Tan used a little more strength, he could directly smash the young man's shoulder bones. The owner of this shop was not an ordinary person. His cultivation was at least at the golden core stage. Wang Ling had noticed this as soon as he entered the room. Boss Tan looked at Tang Yuning and continued to comfort him. There was once a great man who said that the birth of a genius required 99% hard work and 1% talent. Maybe you didn't work hard enough. So, don't give up. The young man raised his head and looked at the boss as if he had seen a glimmer of hope. Is it true? But as soon as Boss Tan said this, Father Wang instinctively activated his poisonous tongue mode and quietly added, "Do you know that there's actually a second half to this famous saying? Although only 1% talent is required, 1% talent is the most important." Boss Tan, Tang Yuning was about to cry. Why did you have to say it out loud? Wang Ling. My heart hurts, buddy. It could only be said that Father Wang's poisonous tongue was getting better and better. This venomous tongue attack left the young man completely defenseless. Boss Tan felt very helpless about this. But it was clear that Father Wang didn't care about his poisonous tongue at all. Everyone had heard the saying, nothing in the world is difficult as long as you're willing to give up. Father Wang felt that since you didn't have any talent, continuing to persist was very stupid. Every profession had its own master, so why did you have to hang on to one tree? Why couldn't you hang on other trees a few more times? Shatter dreams with a poisonous tongue, so that young people could recognize reality earlier and walk on the right path. Father Wang felt that as an elder, this was the right way to educate and guide young people. Ling Ling, how about a song? At that moment, Father Wang suddenly turned to look at Wang Ling. Wang Ling was silent. Sir, does your son also study music? Boss Tan was a little curious. Father Wang shook his head. He's only in his first year of high school this year, and has learned to play the guitar in his spare time. He can be considered a music secondhand, right? But I think if he works hard, he'll own half of the music industry sooner or later. Boss Tan clearly didn't agree with half of the music industry, and shook his head. No, half of the music industry belongs to that teacher Wang Banbai. Speaking of which, this teacher Wang Banbai that Boss Tan spoke of could be considered an eccentric person. He had once boasted in the media that if the rock and roll world lost him, it would lose half of its territory, which was how Wang Banbai's nickname had come about. Now, this was a slightly teasing way of putting it. Thus, this vagabond singer expressed his strong dissatisfaction with Father Wang's promotion of his son. I learned music from a vocal music teacher. Your son is just a hobby, and you still say half of the music industry. Isn't that too much of an exaggeration? Go on. Ling Ling. It's time to show off your real skills. Father Wang suddenly gave Wang Ling a thumbs up and flashed his white teeth. Ding. It was as if everyone could see Father Wang's teeth flash. Wang Ling. Go on, motherf asterisk cur. Of course, Wang Ling refused. It was fine if he just wanted to play the guitar, but if he wanted him to sing, the problem was very serious. Because he was programmed not to speak. However, under Father Wang's burning gaze, Wang Ling finally compromised. First of all, Wang Ling was afraid that Father Wang would dock his allowance for no reason because of his refusal. Secondly, Wang Ling was a little concerned about the young man's disdainful expression. Then, should he perform a bit? Thus, Wang Ling quietly went to a corner and picked up Tang Yuning's wooden guitar. He took a deep breath and felt even more nervous than his usual life at school. Tang Yuning crossed his arms and sneered as if he were watching a play. Yo, nervous already? When I sing in the streets and alleys, I've never been nervous with so many people watching me. Wang Ling swept an indifferent glance over Tang Yuning, his expression unruffled. What on earth should he sing? Wang Ling thought for a while. There were actually very few pop songs in this world, and Huaxiao Nation didn't attach enough importance to music. But that didn't mean that Wang Ling couldn't listen to good music. His heaven's ear link could connect to various planes and world lines, just like a radio's FM. After pondering for a while, Wang Ling suddenly thought of a song from another plane that was very suitable for playing the guitar. Holding the guitar, Wang Ling strummed the strings a few times to test the sound. The sound of a youthful guitar rang out. Chapter 136. It was a young man's voice that was cold and aloof. Compared to the original song, it lacked the vicissitudes of life, but it had a more youthful vibe that only a young man would have. The song Wang Ling was playing was a cover of the song, Old Boys, by a group called the Chopsticks Brothers, from Another World line. This song was about the confusion of not being able to express one's feelings to the girl one loved deeply and being afraid of being rejected. It expressed the feeling that one was no longer young and that things were the same, but people were different. Wang Ling liked this song very much. Wang Ling remembered that he had once liked a girl when he had his first awakening of love. But because of his own reasons, he hadn't said a word until graduation. He had been afraid that he would hurt the other party. At that moment, Wang Ling was playing Old Boys in this rundown little restaurant with his guitar in his arms, and there was a different kind of emotion in it. As soon as he opened his mouth, both Boss Tan and Tang Yuning were directly intoxicated. That's the person I miss and love day and night. How on earth should I express it? Will she accept me? Maybe I'll never say those words to her. I'm destined to wander the world. How can I have any worries? Dreams are always out of reach. Should I give up? Flowers bloom and wilt, and it's the rainy season. Spring, where are you? Youth is like a rushing river, gone and never coming back to say goodbye. Only a numb me, not the hot-bloodedness from back then. Look at the falling flowers in the sky, wilting at the most beautiful moment. Who will remember that it once came to this world? This was the A section of the song, but Wang Ling had already put down the guitar when he sang this part. Boss Tan was completely stupefied. There was actually such a thing? While Wang Ling had been playing, Boss Tan had also looked up the lyrics in passing, and found that there were no related searches online. This was enough to prove that this was an original song. This was just a teenager in grade 1, but he was actually able to write such a touching song full of youthful spirit. At that moment, after Wang Ling finished playing and singing, both Boss Tan and Tang Yuning felt inexplicably moved. They instantly felt that this teenager had a story to tell. This was a song they had never heard before. Just listening to a small part of the melody was enough to make them feel intoxicated. Boss Tan felt that he had already become this teenager's fan. This was probably the legendary Grandmaster's blessing, right? Only Wang Ling himself knew that this wasn't some ancestral master's gift at all. He didn't produce music, he was just a music porter. After putting the young man's guitar back in its original position, Wang Ling silently returned to his seat and started to eat noodles. His carefree attitude made it seem as if he had just done a very small thing, but it was an irrepressible blow to Tang Yuning's heart. Who the hell was this person? Tang Yuning was shocked. He drooped his head, feeling completely defeated. Back then, in order to learn music, he had abandoned everything and secretly used a sum of money from his family's demolition fund behind his parents' back, then gave all the money to a vocal music teacher. That money was originally reserved for him to use when he got married. Later, when the matter came to light, his family cut off all his living expenses. And Tang Yuning officially became a vagabond singer. Looks like I'm really not cut out for this. If he had listened to his parents' advice and not used the money, he might have had a wife by now. He would have lived in a brand new house, and maybe he could have teased his children, and found a stable life to live in. For the first time, Tang Yuning felt that his life had been a mistake. Was he going to persevere? After listening to Wang Ling's playing and singing, Tang Yuning began to seriously question himself. How much can a vagabond singer like you earn in a day? Father Wang asked. Tang Yuning's previous pride in having studied proper music theory had completely disappeared. He scratched his head and was a little embarrassed. It depends, sometimes it's raining, and I can't earn much at all. I sing everywhere in the hope that people will appreciate me for my music, and not pity me. There was silence in the shop. Tang Yuning touched his guitar, his eyes a little moist. I thought that given my ability, I would have no problem passing the auditions. Now, this is all I have left. Then do you plan to continue down this path? Father Wang asked again. Tang Yuning shook his head. I don't know. You don't know, I just want to. Father Wang raised his eyebrows and felt that this young man was quite persistent. An average person would have given up long ago under Father Wang's venomous tongue attack. These people often couldn't accomplish anything big, but this hesitation just showed that the young man didn't want to give up so easily. What did you think of my son's song just now? That song was really good. Tang Yuning was a little excited, but at the same time a little disappointed. Maybe I'll never be able to write this song in my lifetime. Have you ever thought that your failure in the auditions might have been because of the song you chose? Father Wang asked again. Sitting in his seat, Wang Ling raised his eyebrows slightly. He could already feel that Father Wang's attitude toward the young man was a little different. He had changed from a venomous tongue to an enlightened one. Father Wang was a storyteller to begin with. He had always had a strong grasp of the topic, and his ability to guide others was also top-notch. Wang Ling had once witnessed with his own eyes how Father Wang had guided more than 90% of a group of 2,000 pirated readers to read the original version again. Tang Yuning blinked and looked at Father Wang. Teacher, what do you mean? Don't call me teacher, it sounds so awkward. Just call me uncle. Father Wang waved his hand. What I mean is, if you don't mind my son's song, how about I sell it to you? Tang Yuning instantly stood up. Uncle, are you saying that you want to sell this song to me? But very quickly, Tang Yuning had a bitter and resentful expression on his face. But, uncle, I don't have any money. In this day and age, a high-quality original work was really hard to come by. Tang Yuning felt that if he submitted this song to any record company, he would be able to sell it for a sky-high price for the copyright. Father Wang silently lit a cigarette and put it in his mouth. How much money do you have on you? Tang Yuning rummaged through all his pockets. Putting the loose change and the cash together, he had exactly 33 yuan and 70 cents. Tang Yuning was anxious. Looking at Father Wang, he clenched his teeth, hugged his guitar tightly, gave it a fierce kiss, and handed it to Father Wang. Uncle, if you don't mind, I don't. Father Wang rolled his eyes bluntly. Boss Tan was speechless. This was too straightforward. Father Wang, why would I want your guitar? Can you eat this guitar? This guy is your life, right? How can you walk the streets without a guy? After that, Father Wang turned to look at the boss. Boss Tan, do you have pen and paper? Boss Tan nodded. Yes. Father Wang had always had a good memory, and he also knew some music theory. So after Wang Ling sang it once, Father Wang had basically memorized the lyrics and melody. Even if there was anything he missed, Wang Ling would fill in the gaps telepathically. He quickly wrote down the lyrics of Old Boys on a piece of paper. Then, he wrote a simplified score by hand and capped the pen. His actions were as smooth as flowing water. Finally, Father Wang gave the paper to Tang Yuning. The most precious thing about a dream is that no matter how big a setback, it can always be reforged. Tang Yuning's hands trembled as he gripped the paper. Father Wang exhaled a puff of smoke and shook off the ash. He got up, grabbed the 33 yuan and 70 cents on the table, and stuffed it into Boss Tan's hands. 2 bowls of beef noodles, 30 yuan in total. Keep the change. After that, father and son and Lupi Toad directly left the small shop, leaving Boss Tan clutching 33 yuan and 70 cents with a flustered expression on his face. After teleporting home with Father Wang and Lupi Toad, Wang Ling saw Father Wang leaning back on the sofa and letting out a long sigh of relief. Your mom maxed out my pay card, we have to be frugal these days. Wang Ling, Father Wang looked at Wang Ling earnestly and said earnestly, look, I used my little wisdom today to save money on 2 bowls of beef noodles. Do you know what it means to run a household diligently and thriftily? This is it. Chapter 137. In all of Wang Ling's plans for life, apart from being able to live a stable life, there was almost nothing else he wanted. But he realized that no matter what he wanted to do, things always turned out contrary to his wishes. For Wang Ling, a little ordinary life wasn't easy to come by. May 29th, the 5th Saturday of the semester. In the morning, the doorbell of the Wang family's small villa rang. Because of the Wang Situ's wrath over a beauty incident in the last 2 days, Father Wang owed a lot of manuscripts, and had just gone to bed after pulling an all-nighter to write them. He could only open the door himself. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal stood at the door with a bag in his hand. When he saw Wang Ling personally open the door, he hurriedly bowed and greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Brother Ling." Wang Ling's expression was cold and detached. Sometimes, grenade-throwing senior Immortal felt that it was actually very tiring to be friends with Wang Ling. He had to learn to read the other party's expression, otherwise he wouldn't be able to understand what the other party meant at all. Wang Ling's current expression was the standard dead fish eyes. As one of Wang Ling's few friends in the cultivation world, grenade-throwing senior Immortal felt that he could see a trace of confusion in Wang Ling's eyes. If he could sum it up in 4 words, it would be, "What are you doing here?" Grenade-throwing senior Immortal lifted the bag in his hand. "I planted the broccoli that great senior gave me last time in our family's spirit soil. They were watered with morning dew every day, and they grew very well. I just harvested this bag of broccoli this morning. It's very fresh, so I wanted to bring some for senior." Without another word, Wang Ling prepared to close the door. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal hurriedly stuck his hand through the crack in the door. "Brother Ling, wait. I'm here for serious business today. Hey, do you still remember that third saint from last time? He sent a box to the villa, and I want Brother Ling to take a look at it." After thinking for a while, Wang Ling let go of the doorknob and let grenade-throwing senior Immortal in. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal changed into slippers as he entered the room. At the same time, he sighed endlessly in his heart. Nowadays, it really wasn't easy to come to the Holy Land to pay respects to the great seniors. Feeling that the Wang family's small villa was exceptionally quiet today, grenade-throwing senior Immortal asked suspiciously, "Are the seniors not at home today?" Wang Ling was too lazy to explain, and casually pointed at the travel magazines on the coffee table. This was what Mother Wang and the old man saw yesterday before they left, and they didn't have time to put it away. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal immediately understood. It turned out that the great seniors had gone on a trip. However, the location of the tour was a little strange. Hunan? South of the Milky Way? For ordinary people, that place might be a tourist attraction with beautiful mountains and rivers. But for cultivators, grenade-throwing senior Immortal felt that it had no tourist value at all. South of the heavenly river was not only lacking in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but it also lacked the element of fortuitous encounters. In order to make money from cultivators, the tourist attractions were painstakingly creating gimmicks. Right now, the tourist attractions that the vast majority of cultivators yearned for should be Old Devil Han's former residence, Black Ox Treasure Town, and the Holy Land of Cultivators, the Malagobi Desert. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal stared at the travel magazine for a long time. In the end, he rubbed his chin and couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. "I'll buy these 2 magazines later and take a look. There's definitely something strange about the 2 great seniors choosing this scenic spot." Wang Ling, grenade-throwing senior Immortal, "Come to think of it, I don't remember there being any specialties south of Sky River, if you don't count manhole covers." Wang Ling didn't know how to respond to grenade-throwing senior Immortal. "That's right, Brother Ling. Let me have a look at that box that third saint sent." After this little interlude, grenade-throwing senior Immortal finally returned to the main topic. Wang Ling nodded silently. Then, spirit light flashed in grenade-throwing senior Immortal's hand, and a suitcase with a lock appeared in it. "This is a suitcase sent by third saint. The lock on the outside is encrypted. To be cautious, Wang Ling first used his heavenly eye to check carefully to confirm that there weren't any traps on the suitcase. He was the one who had let third saint go back then. Although he didn't know where he was now, the other party had indeed fulfilled his promise to Immortal Castle when they parted, and at the same time, he had withdrawn from the ranks of the 10 saints. Wang Ling thought that this briefcase probably contained the intelligence that third saint had obtained. Wang Ling touched the lock on the box and frowned. It was made of green steel jade, although it couldn't compare to the hardness of the universe level. However, he was also one of the best on Earth. But that wasn't the real problem, it was that third saint had encrypted the lock. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal said, "This lock has a very elaborate design. It doesn't have a lock core, but there's a 64-bit encrypted array inside. If you want to unlock it, you have to crack this small array. I've looked up a lot of information in the last 2 days, but in the end, I came back empty-handed. After studying it for a full 2 days, I still couldn't crack it. I wonder if Brother Ling has any brilliant ideas." As soon as he said this, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw Wang Ling reach out and pinch the lock. Then, there was a crack. The green steel jade lock was directly crushed into a pile of fine powder, and the suitcase bounced open with a bang. Then, Wang Ling pushed the suitcase in front of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. This was 2F*** King simple and crude. As Wang Ling had guessed, after the suitcase was opened, he saw piles of materials. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a cursory look and realized that these materials were actually the transaction accounts between Landscape Manor and Immortal Castle. If he had the opportunity to sue Immortal Castle in the future, these accounts would be material evidence. I never thought that Third Saint would even be able to get his hands on their account books. These are all solid evidence. At first, we were worried that we wouldn't be able to produce any evidence. These things could be considered a small surprise, but grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was also a little disappointed. Given the current situation, these material evidence wouldn't be of much help to the current situation. At most, it could only prove that Immortal Castle, which was a well-known educational institution, had an unspeakable chain of interest behind it. The lord of the castle was a very cautious person. As time passed, the loopholes in the accounts that Third Saint had found might be wiped clean bit by bit. For these people, money laundering was as easy as eating and drinking. Wang Ling stared at the suitcase for a moment. He pushed aside the piles of materials at the top, and finally found an inconspicuous secret compartment at the very bottom. This secret compartment had been processed with a special space expansion technology, and looked like the eye of a needle from the outside, but it still couldn't escape Wang Ling's eyes. It was conceivable that Third Saint had taken such a watertight security measure to prevent this suitcase from falling into someone else's hands. Even if someone took the accounts inside, they wouldn't be able to read them. But it was very obvious that the thing in the secret compartment was the key. As expected of Brother Ling. You could even find this. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal started to feel ashamed of his inferiority again. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal used his spirit energy to pull out the thing hidden in the secret compartment. Chapter 138. An embroidered pouch. It looks like this is the real message that Third Saint wants to give us. These accounts are just a cover. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was suddenly a little excited. Whether it was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal or Wang Ling, they had both experienced Immortal Castle's way of doing things. It was watertight. But in the end, humans weren't sages, and this was true even for cultivators. No matter how meticulous their thinking was, they would still stumble. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rummaged through the contents of the embroidered pouch. In addition to a gray notebook, there was also a glass bottle filled with a black liquid. What's this? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal opened the bottle and sniffed it. It actually smelled like loquat cream, and he was instantly startled. Could it be this bottle? The legendary bomb that can make female live streamers wish they were dead? Wang Ling already didn't have the energy to ridicule this man who would act stupidly from time to time. This thing doesn't look like body-tempering liquid. The ingredients inside are a little strange. Under Wang Ling's dead fish gaze, the man in white finally became a little more serious. He carefully put down the glass bottle and flipped open the gray notebook on the side. As he flipped through the notebook, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression became more and more serious, and he cried out in alarm. This is big news. Brother Ling. While grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was still flipping through the notebook, Wang Ling had almost finished reading his mind at the same time. Then, the two of them sat on the sofa in the same position as they stared at the bottle of black potion, their chins cupped in contemplation. According to the records in the gray notebook, this black potion was a kind of special strengthening potion first developed by Immortal Castle. It was designed for cultivators who couldn't make any further progress in their realms. At the cost of a certain amount of their lifespan, their body functions would mutate, and they would be able to display formidable battle strength that their realm couldn't match. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was the contents of the second half of the notebook. The latter half contained all sorts of data on Immortal Castle's human drug experiments on students under the guise of an educational institution. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned deeply, his eyes flashing with resentment. Who would have thought that Immortal Castle would actually do such an insane thing behind the scenes? No matter what, they can't ruin the flowers of the motherland. Wang Ling also frowned. Remembering something, he directly spoke to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal telepathically. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately nodded. Brother Ling, don't worry, I'll bring back the ingredients for this medicine right away and personally deliver them to Immortal Toya. With his experience, it shouldn't be a problem for him to detect the composition of the drug. After saying this, Wang Ling saw the man sigh deeply. In this day and age, those who have money rely on equipment, and those who don't have money rely on mutations. I didn't expect this saying to be true. In that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal truly felt the sorrow behind this mutated enhancer. When all was said and done, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this was the same as that group of cultivators who had once bitterly clung to their orthodoxy and tried their best to reach the sky in a single bound. For the sake of cultivation, he could defy the will of the heavens and do anything. For the sake of his realm, he racked his brains and tried to take a shortcut. However, since ancient times in the cultivation world, the strong cultivators who stood out in front of the world and were worshipped by the people all relied on their own cultivation, accumulated bit by bit, and walked step by step. Yes, there were no shortcuts to cultivation in the first place. There are no shortcuts on the path of cultivation, so why are there so many people who can't figure it out? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt very tired in his heart. All these years, he had been promoting the values of cultivation on the forum, but it had all gone to waste. After obtaining the lead on the brocade pouch, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal left the Wang family's small villa gloomily. Before he left, he didn't forget to tell Wang Ling to personally deliver the broccoli he had planted to Grandfather Wang. Wang Ling didn't know what on earth this man would do after that. Immortal Castle wasn't easy to deal with. If it had just been a small, ordinary organization, given this great death-courting senior's personality, he would have long since gone berserk in anger. He would definitely have directly charged into Immortal Castle and turned it upside down to fully display his bursting sense of justice, right? But looking at the current situation, there clearly wasn't enough reason for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to do so. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still didn't have any proof that Immortal Castle was conducting human experiments on its students. It was useless to just rely on some notes. There were some things that had to be seen to be believed. After leaving the Wang family's small villa, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal called Little Black again. Hello, Little Black? That's right, I need to trouble you again. I have a few students' addresses. I hope you can help me check them out. Oh, by the way, how's the restoration of the laboratory going? On the other end of the line, Little Black was clearly already used to being bossed around like this. AI, it's not bad, except for the Armstrong Cyclone Jet Armstrong cannon, everything else has basically been repaired. That. Brother Lei, last time you told me that you would help me find the bastard who destroyed the laboratory. Do you have a plan for this? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded solemnly. Don't worry, I'll remember it. Once you've repaired the cannon, I'll directly look for Ling Junren and use my great spiritual senses to track down that bastard. Then the two of us will carry the cannon and blow up that bastard's house. Little Black, wouldn't that be a little too violent? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what else is there to say when dealing with this kind of bastard? Let me tell you, Little Black, you're my brother. My brother's house was smashed up, I can't just sit back and do nothing. When I find that person's address, I'll be the first to carry the cannon and blow it up. Leave this matter to me. Little Black, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. I'll have to trouble you to help me find the addresses of those students as soon as possible. Little Black, what kind of information do you have? The more information there is, the faster I'll be able to find them. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned at this question, because the information provided in the notebook was really limited. It only recorded the student's age, height, weight and other physical data, as well as the changes after they had taken the mutation potion. There was really very little other information. Grenade throwing senior immortal. That's a little. Little Black's heart thumped. How much? Grenade throwing senior immortal answered truthfully, height, weight, age, 3D, as well as the length and thickness of the Tower of Babel. Oh, that's right, there's also a medical record of a circumcision. Little Black, suddenly, Grenade throwing senior immortal had a bold idea. Maybe we can start with the andrology hospital. Maybe that'll give us some clues. Let's see if they've gone for a circumcision or something, and then use the medical records. Won't we be able to find the addresses? Chapter 139. It could only be said that Xiao He was indeed Xiao He. As a world-class outstanding programmer, it quickly found the whereabouts of a few students in the notebook. There were 3 students in total, and they were currently being treated in isolation at Songhai City's Second Cultivation People's Hospital. The cost of treatment in isolation was extremely high. In order to prevent the matter from being exposed, Immortal Castle covered all the medical expenses during this period, and also gave the victims' families a token amount of money to keep their mouths shut. However, this could not conceal the harm of human experimentation to society. The isolation treatment room was located in a separate area of the secondary hospital. Without the hospital's procedures and relevant permits, even family members could not enter. But Grenade throwing senior immortal had his own special technique for visiting patients. That was because when Little Black was investigating Second Cultivation People's Hospital, he happened to discover that the director of this independent ward was actually Immortal Toya's disciple, Li Miaozhen. May 30th, Sunday of the 5th week of school. The temperature was a little low today. It was fine for cultivators, but ordinary people had to at least change from short sleeves to long sleeves, otherwise they would definitely get sick from the unique cold air lingering in Songhai City. The temperature in the weather forecast fluctuated up and down, indicating that Songhai City had officially entered epilepsy mode in the next month. Sometimes it was as hot as deep summer, and sometimes it was as cold as winter. The temperature fluctuated. However, the vast majority of people who had lived in Songhai City for a long time were already used to this bit of difference in temperature. Because of Immortal Toya's instructions, Director Li was already standing guard at the entrance of Second Hospital's independent ward, waiting for grenade-throwing senior immortal to come over. They had arranged to meet at 8:00 in the morning. Director Li was wearing a white coat and had a hospital identification card around his neck. On the inside, he was wearing a thick vest. The cold air from the frozen sea was at its strongest between 8 and 9 in the morning. Director Li stood at the door and rubbed his hands. He looked up at the sky and rolled his eyes. How many times has it been since we failed to enter the summer? Just as he was lamenting in his heart, 2 figures appeared at the independent ward in the distance. It was grenade-throwing senior immortal and Wang Ling. He had originally planned to take advantage of the old man's trip this morning to reinforce his little tricycle. Unexpectedly, early in the morning, a man dressed in white appeared at the entrance of the Wang family's small villa with a sinister smile on his face. Lei Muren wanted Wang Ling to go to the hospital with him. As a prerequisite, he would ask an acquaintance to help Wang Ling reinforce the tricycle. After careful consideration, Wang Ling concluded that he wasn't losing out on this deal. Firstly, he could save some money. Secondly, he could avoid contact with outsiders. These days, finding a strengthening shop was like going to a barber shop. As soon as he entered the shop, a bunch of strange directors and chief executives would come out and start promoting and applying for membership cards. Wang Ling had always been disgusted. Thus, after thinking it over, Wang Ling was forcibly dragged over by grenade-throwing senior immortal. Director Li's expression was a little strange when he saw grenade-throwing senior immortal personally riding the tricycle with a young boy sitting behind it. Before the tricycle could come close, Director Li immediately went forward and bowed to Lei Muren. "Hello, Senior Lei, my Shifu has already told me about the situation." Then he turned to Wang Ling. "May I know who this is?" Grenade-throwing senior immortal thought seriously for a bit, then patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and replied, "This is our cultivation forum's most powerful rake, Ling Zhenren." Wang Ling, this is the legendary Ling Zhenren. Director Li was shocked and hurriedly bowed to Wang Ling. I've long heard of Ling Zhenren's name from my shifu, but I didn't expect him to be so young. There was no doubt in his words. After all, cultivators nowadays had too many ways to maintain their youthful looks. However, Wang Ling had maintained his youthful looks so well. Director Li had to admit that this was indeed the first time he had seen someone like this. Wang Ling nodded at the hospital director as a form of greeting. In contrast, Director Li looked a little flattered. Leading the two of them to the entrance of the independent zone, Director Li stood in front of the door and greeted the security captain. These two are my friends. The security captain stuck his head out of the security room for a look, and saw a man on a tricycle outside the door with a boy sitting on it. But the captain didn't think much of it, and directly opened the gate. Actually, Director Li was taking a risk by bringing Wang Ling and Wang Ling in, because the hospital's higher-ups had already instructed that no one was to be allowed in unless they were a patient's immediate family member or relevant medical staff. But the hospital was this kind of place. As long as you had connections, you would naturally be able to get in. When all was said and done, this was a society of connections. Is there a place to park? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked the security captain as they entered the door. The security captain's face was full of black question marks. You're riding AF *** King tricycle. But because Director Li was here, it wasn't appropriate for the security captain to say anything, and he pointed ahead. Turn left 100 meters ahead, there's a parking lot. Thank you. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cupped his fists in a salute, then rode the tricycle straight into the parking lot with a drift. Finally, he looked around and stopped in the middle of a Maybach and a Maserati. Director Li struggled to keep up behind him. He hadn't expected this tricycle to be so *** King fast. Wang Ling calmly got off the tricycle and straightened his clothes, his heart as still as an ancient well. After all, he had blessed this little three-wheeled motorcycle with his own hands. There were 2 inpatient buildings in the independent area of Second Hospital. Director Li led the two of them to the base of one of the buildings, which had a very imposing fountain at the entrance. Wang Ling noticed that the color of this building was very special. It was actually black. Director Li stood at the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back. This is our Second Hospital's VIP isolation building, which is specially open for critically ill patients. My eldest senior brother personally invested in it, and even the reinforced concrete is custom-made with spirit herb paste. Staying in this building can delay the patient's illness to the greatest extent. Even terminally ill patients will have enough time for treatment. As they entered the first floor, they were greeted by a dazzling lineup of pennants and certificates, such as Miracle Hands, City Advanced Units and so on. The secondary hospital specially used a wall to hang the certificates neatly on the wall. But the most obvious one was the portrait of an old man with a mustache hanging in the middle of the pile of certificates. His eyes were slightly narrowed, and he looked very amiable. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, this is? At the mention of this person, Director Li instantly looked a little excited. This is my eldest senior brother, Li Shizhen. Wang Ling, this is the man who built this building and brought hope to countless patients. Director Li excitedly pointed to a horizontal board at the back of the door, which Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't noticed when they had entered. This horizontal board was personally inscribed by my eldest senior brother. It's the name of this building. Wang Ling turned his head to look. Immediately, 4 huge golden words appeared in front of his eyes. Night Shift Hospital. Chapter 140. Second Hospital had 30 floors in total, and treated all kinds of strange patients. When they arrived at the elevator on the first floor, they happened to see a young nurse pushing a trolley out of the large elevator. When she saw Director Li, the nurse hurriedly bowed her head and said, "Good morning, Director Li." Director Li had a good memory. She could remember most of the nurses who worked in this building by name, and could even compare the patients they were taking care of. "Little Lu, how's the patient today?" asked Director Li. The patient Nurse Lu was in charge of was very special. When it came to her patient, the young nurse furrowed her willowy eyebrows and looked like she had a headache. As usual, this patient keeps spouting nonsense. He insists that he's a transmigrator. He also lies about having a superpower. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, what superpower? Let me show you. After saying that, Nurse Lou immediately jumped left and right and roared, whoosh. Director Lee, after this shameful performance, Nurse Lou quickly regained her composure and sighed deeply. That patient keeps saying that he can teleport. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, Wang Ling, as you can see, there are a lot of strange patients here. Huaguo Water Curtain Group has invested a lot in the establishment of a research bureau for hard-to-treat diseases over the years, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to find an effective solution for these diseases. Director Lee sighed. Following Director Lee into the elevator, Director Lee pressed the button for the 18th floor. Our building distributes wards according to the difficulty of the patient's treatment. The more difficult the illness is, the higher the floor they are arranged to live on. How are the 3 children? Grenade-throwing senior immortal's heart couldn't help trembling when he saw the number 18 floor. This was already the 18th floor. What kind of lunatic was living on the 30th floor? Information on the conditions of the patients in the independent zone was basically confidential. However, Director Lee was still able to learn a thing or two based on his connections. As the elevator rose, Director Lee frowned the whole time. As far as I know, 2 of these 3 children's conditions are basically under control. But they're only under control. They could flare up again at any time. The remaining child's condition is worse. Did the hospital find out what the mutation potion was made of? Asked Grenade-throwing senior immortal. They signed a confidentiality agreement with the family and gave them a sizable amount of compensation. They didn't even provide the ingredients of the potion. They completely handed it over to our hospital to treat it. Director Lee shook his head. According to the current treatment results, the effect of the potion is no longer just affecting their cell structure. It seems to be a little mentally as well. You'll see when you get to the ward. 10 seconds later, the elevator reached the corresponding floor. Chief Lee led the 2 of them through a long corridor and arrived at the innermost ward. The ward was very big. There were 3 beds in total, and they were all separated by glass. Wang Ling immediately saw 3 teenagers of his age. One was sitting on the bed and clapping his hands non-stop, one was lying as straight as a pole on the bed, and the last one was directly lying on the ground, in the embrace of Mother Earth. Wang Ling felt that he had broadened his horizons. There was a saying that mental patients had a wide range of thinking, and this wasn't false at all. He was stunned to realize that his mind-reading ability was completely useless on these 3 people, just like the old man when he was suffering from Alzheimer's. Director Lee pointed to the first patient who was clapping. Patient number 1, after taking the mutation potion, feels that he can summon the heavenly flame. Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked doubtfully, then why is he clapping? Director Lee, he's imitating the angry Buddha fire lotus. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior immortal, don't underestimate him. His current situation is already under control, and he's just clapping. Every time he clapped before, he would yell out, angry Buddha fire lotus. So, we defined his condition as acute Chinibu syndrome. Wang Ling, Director Lee pointed to the second patient. Patient number 2, after taking the mutation potion, the powerful side effects caused him to completely lose control. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, like a vegetable? Director Lee nodded. He can be considered a conscious vegetable. He can eat, but the food has to be put into his mouth. At the worst, he can't even be bothered to chew. So after that, we switched to fluid transfusions to maintain his body's nutrients. We defined his condition as chronic Guyu paralysis salted fish syndrome. Wang Ling, after that, Director Lee pointed to the last patient. Patient number 3 should be the only one of the 3 who successfully mutated. But his ability is very weak. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, then why is he lying on the ground? Director Lee's expression was calm. He's imitating Spider-Man, Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior immortal. Not long after Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior immortal followed Director Lee into the night duty building, the window of a Maybach in the parking lot slowly rolled down, and the person sitting in the driver's seat was Song Qingshu's tall subordinate. He had watched helplessly as Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior Immortal entered the building, and had immediately called Song Qingshu to report the situation. Lord Director, you guessed right. As expected, this incident has attracted attention. Song Qingshu sighed inwardly. Sure enough, he had been right to send people to keep an eye on them. The tall man in a suit asked, then what should we do now? The Lord has specifically instructed us not to let outsiders know about the potion. After Third Saint betrayed us, the Lord has always been worried that this person would do us harm. Who would have thought that he would actually bring trouble to our doorstep so quickly? Song Qingshu said unhurriedly, there are only two paths in front of us now, either we get rid of those 3 students, or we get rid of these visitors who know about this. The man in a suit was clearly dazed. Lord Director. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but it doesn't seem possible to get rid of these 2 people who know about this. Although we lost a lot of our manpower last time, there are still 7 of the 10 saints left. Is there anything that 7 soul formation cultivators can't handle? There are only 2 people on the other side, right? The man in a suit, but of these 2 people, one of them is that great death-courting senior. Song Qingshu wanted to swear a little. Motherf ******. How could it be him again? Forcing himself to calm down, Song Qingshu took a deep breath. Then, who is the other person? The man in a suit answered truthfully, it's a youngster, he's been with this great death-courting senior the whole time. They drove here. But this great death-courting senior seems to respect him very much. The youngster who had driven here with grenade-throwing senior Immortal. After losing 2 generals, Great Saint and Second Saint, in a row the last time, Song Qingshu was already traumatized by the word youngster. Could it be the one in grenade-throwing senior Immortal's villa? As he pondered this, Song Qingshu's hands were already shaking uncontrollably. Chapter 141. Director Li entrusted the nurse in charge of this floor with detailed information on the 3 students. All 3 of them were students from Foundation Establishment High Schools. Coincidentally, they were all from Peiyuan District. One was from Building Materials High School, one was from God Vision High School, and the last one was from number 59 High School. Wang Ling's eyelids couldn't help twitching as he looked at the information. After all, number 59 High School had left him with a lot of unforgettable memories back then, Xie. Looking at the information, Wang Ling couldn't match the name to the person's face. He raised his eyes and began to carefully size up the teenager lying on the floor learning how to spit silk. The more he looked, the more he felt that this guy looked a little familiar. In a fraction of a second, through the memory retrieval effect of the Great Memory Spell, Wang Ling finally recalled the identity of the Spider-Man teenager. This person was that delinquent He Bufeng's sidekick, the killer underling. The reason why Wang Ling hadn't recognized him at first glance was that the other party had shaved off his colorful punk-ass hairstyle. Now he was a bona fide bald man. Looking at Xie now, Wang Ling sighed deeply in his heart. Sometimes, going bald really wouldn't make you stronger, even if you ran and did push-ups every day and didn't have air conditioning in the summer. It was no use. Brother Ling, do you know this teenager? Grenade-throwing senior Immortal felt that Wang Ling's expression when he saw this Xie was a little different. Wang Ling's micro-expressions were actually very easy to distinguish because he usually had a poker face, and the slightest ripple could be seen. After serious consideration, Wang Ling nodded noncommittally. Wang Ling didn't feel emotionally attached to number 59 High School, nor did he have any friendship with it. But no matter what, he couldn't deny that those were places where he had left his memories. He stared at Xie lying on the floor and frowned slightly. Then he shook his finger, and the 3 teenagers in the ward actually all fell asleep. Xie, who had been crazily spitting silk like Spider-Man on the floor earlier, was now lying paralyzed on the floor, snoring away. After that, Wang Ling used the gravitation spell to get Xie into bed, and only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. This was a tribulation the 3 of them had to go through. No matter what the outcome was, Wang Ling couldn't interfere. That was all he could do. Recklessly interfering with heavenly Tao would result in divine retribution. Wang Ling felt very tired. He was just a 16-year-old high school student. He actually quieted down. Director Lee was startled. He knew this Ling Jinren had used it. Brother Ling's hibernation spell can make the victim sleep for 7 days and 7 nights. Even if the sky falls down, they won't wake up. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal was very familiar with this move, because he had seen Wang Ling use it a few years ago when he had first met him. But at that time, he hadn't been able to cast spells precisely, and with a wave of his hand, a large number of creatures would fall asleep. At that time, Wang had been of the Ling, and had been, and had been, and had. After all, there were many patients in the hospital, and a large portion of them couldn't sleep because of the pain. If it was an ordinary person, it would be fine. A sleeping pill or a sedative would solve the problem. However, most of them had with ordinary people they had with Ling had and were resistant to drugs. If I can learn this hibernation spell, my mom won't have to worry about my studies anymore. But Director Lee was well aware that he was just dreaming. He might never be able to learn such a great spell in his lifetime. Thus, after seeing Wang Ling cast the spell, Director Lee's eyes lit up, and his reverence for this Ling Jinren instantly surged like an unstoppable river. Just as Director Lee was sighing with emotion, he received a text message. It was from his Shifu, Immortal Toya. After reading the message, Director Lee couldn't help frowning. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal, what's the matter? Director Lee's expression was very worried. Shifu said that the material in the drug is very special. It's more troublesome than he thought, and he won't be able to detect it for a while. As he spoke, Immortal Toya sent him a picture of a laboratory test report. Even Brother Toya is stumped. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal instantly felt that this was a little strange. Nowadays, apart from the pharmacists' board employed by Huaguo Water Curtain Group and the alchemists from the Shao clan, the only people who could rival Immortal Toya in terms of pharmaceutical skills were the alchemists who were employed by Huaguo Water Curtain Group. Through this incident, Grenade-throwing senior Immortal discovered a brand new clue. It was worth investigating whether anyone behind Huaguo Water Curtain Group and the Shao clan was colluding with Mo Immortal Castle. We can only wait for Shifu's next message. But with this preliminary test report, we can still analyze some of the mutated potion's pharmacological properties. Speaking up to this point, Director Lee suddenly thought of something and said, I wonder if Ling Jinren can also use the hibernation spell on the patient on the 30th floor? What illness does he have? Grenade-throwing senior Immortal was a little curious about the psychopath on the 30th floor. It's severe delusions and schizophrenia, and he's naturally very resistant to drugs. We've used all sorts of treatment methods, but the effects are minimal. Director Lee sighed. The main point is that this patient insists that he's a descendant of Heavenly Emperor Huang. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal, did you see the fountain downstairs on our way here? This is the most troublesome part. Speaking up to this point, Director Lee felt like his head was about to explode. That patient insists that he knows the Kuan Peng spell, and insists on jumping into the fountain from the 30th floor. Why? Director Lee, he thinks that fountain is a seawall for big fish. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior Immortal, at the same time, the man in a suit and Song Qingshu were still talking downstairs at the hospital. Song Qingshu had racked his brains for a long time in the last few minutes, and had made a difficult decision. How about this, you find someone, or you can smash the car they drove here first. No matter what the situation is now, no matter how much information they've gathered, we have to disrupt their plans first. If the car is smashed, at worst we'll just have to pay for it. How much is a car worth? Staring at Grenade-throwing senior Immortal and Wang Ling's car, the man in a suit silently wiped at his sweat. Lord Director, are you sure you want to do this? Song Qingshu curled his lip. If I tell you to smash it, then smash it. What's with all this nonsense? It's not like you're paying for it. By the way, I want to know, what kind of car does this great death-courting senior drive? A Guanhai Limited Edition? Chuan Jiangwo Limited Edition? None of those. None of those? Cultivators rarely drove, and most chose to fly on their swords. However, it wasn't strange for them to own a car. That was because on many occasions, driving would make you look more impressive. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the cars bought by high-level cultivators were very expensive. Song Qing-shu was really a little curious now. Then what kind of car do they drive? The man in a suit answered truthfully, tricycle. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.